Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council regular council meeting. Item number 1 is call to order. Council meetings can be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually through Microsoft Teams. If you're here to speak on items designated as public hearing items later on in the agenda, please know that you will have an opportunity to speak when I introduce those items at the time of their public hearing. The City Council and I will need to complete other items of business leading up to those items, so we definitely appreciate your patience. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item and you haven't filled out a speaker card yet, please make sure to fill out and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. Now I'd like to invite everyone who's able and willing to join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of the United States of America,
to the
and
republic
to the
for which it
republic
stands,
for which it stands,
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Tonight's agenda has a number of items that the City Council must consider in order to conduct city business. Guidelines for conduct at City Council meetings are on the table near the entrance for those in attendance at tonight's meeting. We will now play a video with the proper protocol for ensuring the appropriate conduct at City Council meetings.
The City of Tempe welcomes public comment at this time. Disruptive behavior will not be allowed. Continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. We need to be able to hear everyone in the room. Behavior that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of any city council meeting is not helpful and is not permitted. This includes behavior both inside and outside of the council chambers. Should individuals inside the council chambers become disruptive so that city business is not able to be conducted, the mayor will first ask that the individuals allow city business to be completed. There will be time for public comment during the call to the audience portion of the meeting. If no cooperation, the mayor will issue a verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is still no cooperation, the mayor will issue a second verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is no cooperation after asking and 2 verbal warnings, then the mayor will ask security officers to remove only those individuals who are causing the disruption. Security personnel should not engage in any way, but only escort them from the council chambers. If individuals refuse to leave, security personnel shall warn them that they are trespassing and that the next step will be arrest by a Tempe police officer. Tempe officers may have to arrest if individuals refuse to leave. Charges for trespass and disorderly conduct may apply, as well as other charges. Should anyone be asked to be removed, the mayor will recess the meeting.
Thank you so much. And now something we're actually just starting this evening as well. We're actually going to play a video conveying the City of Tempe's Native Land Acknowledgement Statement.
We wish to acknowledge that Tempe is the homeland of the Native people who have inhabited this landscape since time immemorial. These ancestral lands of the O'odham, known as Pima, Peeposh, known as the Maricopa, and their ancestors extend far beyond our city. This land continues to be spiritually connected to the O'odham of the Salt River Pima, Maricopa Indian Community, and Gila River Indian Community. We accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action.
Excellent. Might have also realized that the celebrity voice reading that new acknowledgement statement might have been Councilmember Garland. So, all right. Next up here, we're going to turn to item number 4, meeting minutes. Tonight, I will be assisted by Councilmember Hodge. Item 4A is approval of City Council meeting minutes. There are none this evening, which moves us to item 4B, acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes. Councilmember Hodge.
Mayor Woods, I would like to submit in items 4B1 through 4B5 for acceptance.
It's been moved by Councilmember Hodge. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. Next up, item number 5, reports and announcements. The first item here we have is a proclamation for a longtime resident, Mr. Dick Foreman. And that proclamation is going to be read this evening by Vice Mayor Adams. And actually, if the council would like to join me down in the front with Vice Mayor, that would be great, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to read this proclamation this evening. Whereas Dick Foreman, a longtime resident of Tempe, has dedicated nearly 50 years of service as a leader and advocate, serving on over 200, that's right, 200 boards and commissions concerned with businesses, transportation, the environment, housing, arts, and culture. And whereas he has spent almost 40 years developing public policy and engaging in legislative affairs at both the state and federal levels as a senior government affairs representative for the Salt River Project and the Director of Corporate Public Affairs for Southwest Gas Corporation. And whereas Mr. Foreman's commitment to education is evidenced by his work as president and board member for the Tempe Union High School District and Tempe Preparatory Academy, board member for Great Hearts Academias, and the president and CEO of the Arizona Business and Education Coalition, supporting public schools through both tax policy and education policy. And whereas he has tirelessly worked for the betterment of the Tempe community during his time on the Tempe Community Council, Tempe Arts Commission, National Alumni Council Advisory Board for ASU, and President's Advisory Council for Rio Salado College. And whereas Mr. Foreman has truly dedicated himself to improving the lives of people around him through civic engagement, community leadership, and volunteering, including acting as president of the Buena Vista Ranchos HOA, leading the effort to rebuild damaged horse barns in the community. And whereas the city of Tempe recognizes the amazing work of Dick Foreman and his commitment to the Tempe community and the state of Arizona, where his legacy will live on forever in the hearts of those he's impacted. Now, therefore, Jennifer Adams, Vice Mayor of the City of Tempe, on behalf of Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare September 7th as Dick Foreman Lifetime of Service Recognition Day in Tempe, Arizona. I know we have some people that are going to come up, Marcus and Cindy and Katie and anyone else here that wants to come up to accept this award. You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for being here. So we'll get some photos. Yeah. That's all.
I'm giving a virtual hug right now.
Thanks for data. Thanks for
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Next up, item 5A1, appointments to the Mayor's Youth Advisory Commission for the 2023-24 school year. There are appointments that are outlined in item 7A1 on the agenda. So I know we're going to put some slides up here, but I want to make sure to read out each commissioner's name and also the school that they attend. So we have Caleb Koo from Corona del Sol High School, Hazel Hurlbert from Tempe Prep Academy, Kiara Skornavaca from McClintock High School, Isha Muhalani from Basis Awatuki, Katrina Cat Williams from Corona del Sol High School, Sophia Lombardi from Corona del Sol High School, Gosamak Lim from Corona del Sol High School, Malaya McCorvey-Weil from Desert Vista High School, Punya Suresh from Corona del Sol High School, Ria Nanu Punani from Corona del Sol High School, I apologize, Olivia Windsor from Tempe High School, and I do think I see our Tempe Elementary Governing Board President Charlotte Windsor here. I think I saw her earlier. There she is, hi. And we also have Xinqiwan Wuang from Corona del Sol High School. So please make sure to give them a huge round of applause. These are our new appointments to the Mayor's Youth Advisory Commission.
Congratulations.
Councilmember Hodge?
Congratulations, everyone.
All right, excellent. So with that, I'd like to actually ask, I was going to ask, Madam City Attorney, should we do the vote for this now, or would you rather that vote come later on in the agenda?
You could do the vote now, Mayor.
Okay.
That's absolutely fine.
All right, let's
Thank
go
you.
ahead and do it now, so all the wonderful young people who are going to be serving on MIAC can actually see the vote take place. So I'd like to ask for a motion on item 7A1 to.
So moved.
I think it's been moved by Councilmember Chin, and I'm going to go ahead and give the second then to Councilmember Hodge in the land of virtual world. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. Let me see too, is there anyone from the commission who's actually here, any of the new appointees? If so, can you please raise your hands? What I'm going to ask is, for those of you who are here, if you could join us down front, and if the council could join us down front too for some photos.
Smiles. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful.
Mayor, can I get a picture with just the people alone? The youth advisory just by themselves?
Actually, that's a really good point. To Councilmember Hodges' point, can we have another photo actually with just the new commissioners without the council involved? So can you come on back down here and Jason Sapan, if you want to grab some photos? Thank you, Councilmember Hodge.
You're welcome. I'm always thinking about my students.
No problem.
Yeah, am I going down there? You can do it. Well, I left my shit down there.
You want to go down there? They going down
Yeah, I'm going down there. People got to see my. Just you.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Big smiles. And one more. 1, 2, 3. All right, my turn. All right. All right. We love Tempe on 3. 1, 2, 3. We love Tempe.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, next up here, we have item 5A2, National Service Dog Month proclamation, and that's going to be read this evening by Councilmember Keating, who, because the proclamation is down there, he's going to read it in front of all of you.
As Down for the dog run? Yeah. All right. All righty. Thank you, Mayor Woods. All right. Whereas we believe in the joyful, transformative power of the human canine bond and inclusivity of all citizens. Whereas in the United States, 64 million adults and children have a disability, and only 16,000 service dogs from an accredited training program exist nationwide, and the need is growing. Whereas Canine Companions is a nonprofit organization that enhances the lives of people with disabilities by providing expertly trained service dogs and ongoing support to ensure quality partnerships. And whereas Canine Companions and their service dogs empower people with disabilities to lead life with greater independence by providing best-in-class training, ongoing follow-up services, and a deeply committed community of support. And whereas National Service Dog Month aims to educate our community about the benefits of service dogs and the laws protecting them. And whereas the city of Tempe continues to work towards becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens and their service dogs are embraced. And whereas all residents of Tempe are encouraged to celebrate task-trained service dogs and be respectful of the rights afforded to the adults, children, and veterans who lead more independent lives because of their assistance. Now, therefore, I, Councilmember Randy Keating, on behalf of Corey D. Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do declare September 2023 as National Service Dog Month in Tempe, Arizona. Thank you. Here's someone to come take this. Is anyone here from Canine Companions that wants? All right.
I say you hold on to it, so,
right,
absolutely.
Cersei would be so proud.
Yeah, Cersei is not.
She'd be proud of her.
All right, item 5A3 are appointments to the Parks, Recreation, Golf, and Double Butte Cemetery Advisory Board and Sustainability and Resilience Commission. There are new appointments to both of these commissions that are outlined on item 7A2 that is on this evening's agenda. Just want to make sure that I congratulate the following individuals on their appointments. We have Dawn Parker, Ben Polat, Taylor Conley, and Joshua Randall. Congratulations to all four of you. Thank you so much for being willing to serve your community. And the last proclamation I have this evening is item 5A4, Falls Prevention Awareness Month proclamation. And that reads, whereas slips and falls are the leading cause of injury-related deaths among Arizona residents 65 and older. It is estimated that 1 in 4 adults will suffer a serious fall, and it accounts for the highest mortality rate for men over 85. And whereas falls can result in sizable personal and financial tolls that greatly affect a person's quality of life, traumatic brain injury, depression, loss of mobility, and loss of functional independence are frequent challenges impacting those that are injured. And whereas the total cost for unintentional slips and falls, excluding costs associated with physician care, EMS services, rehabilitation, or long-term disability, exceeds $3 billion annually. And whereas falling is not an inevitable result of aging, prevention programs can assist with everyday strategies to improve mobility and stability and reduce risks. And whereas the City of Tempe urges all older adults, family members and caregivers, healthcare providers, medical centers, first responders, law enforcement, and community partners to join the Arizona Falls Prevention Coalition and routinely assess older adults, including our veterans, and those with disabilities for fall risks and strategies to improve mobility and stability. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare September 2023 as Falls Prevention Awareness Month in Tempe, Arizona. That concludes my announcements for this evening. I'll turn to item 5B, City Manager's Reports and Announcements. Madam City Manager.
No announcements this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. That brings us to item 6, public appearances. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the City Council may only discuss matters listed elsewhere on this agenda for discussion and legal action. The purpose of the open call to the public is to allow individuals to address the City Council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the City Council. No person shall speak more than once, and there is a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers present at the podium must state their name and city of residence and provide a speaker card. Members of the public shall refrain from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks and from becoming boisterous while addressing the city council or while attending the meeting. Speakers will be taken first come, first serve in the order in which the cards are received. Speakers' visual aids and appearances by phone or recordings are not allowed. Council members are prohibited by state law from taking action on, commenting, or discussing a matter raised by a member of the public, even if asked to do so by a member of the public, so long as the subject discussed by the speaker is not listed as a specific agenda item for council's consideration for discussion and legal action. At the conclusion of public appearances, the council may ask the city manager to review a matter or place a matter on a future agenda. So I'm going to go here to my cards, and once again, just as a reminder to everyone, we're going to make sure that for the actual public hearing items, we will call your name when it's that time for that public hearing item. So just want to make sure you know that you will have your time this evening. But these are sort of more general public appearances. The first public appearance I have this evening is Ann Till. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Ann Till, Tempe resident. Going to talk about item 7C5, water, use it wisely. I wondered if you could relook this resolution a little. I think there needs to be better messaging. My ask is that the city promotes programs that both conserve water and use materials that reduce urban heat. The city needs easy-to-use tools. It's hard to get landscape right. Even paid landscapers don't. And we need more individualized training so residents can do it on their own so it's affordable. So a lot of the water, use it wisely, outdoor water savings materials is great. Low water use plants and shade producing trees, what not to like. This is the problem. The program doesn't discourage and possibly promotes use of rock pavers and other hot ground covers. And very few yards are shady enough to overcome all that heat generated. And often people have mostly rock in their yards. Have you noticed many yards full of rocks with dead trees and plants this year? Rocks toast new young plants. Even the mighty saguaro has not fared well this past summer. And many residents add trees. They are not educated on pruning or watering. Of course, saving water is very important, but equally important is to reduce urban heat. Taking out a yard full of grass sounds great, but it also is a cool surface. And putting in a yard full of rocks and pavers cancels the impact of removing that grass. One cool surface that I use throughout my yard is wood chip. It's a very cool surface, retains moisture for trees and plants, doesn't require raking or maintenance, and it's walkable, composts into great soil, discourages weed growth, and best of all, it's free. The common concerns, bugs, scorpions, that's a misnomer. All surfaces attract critters. As far as pavers and other surfaces, people take out concrete walkways and driveways and install hot pavers. I did that because I didn't know better, and now I'm stuck with $6,000 investment that is hot. Have you walked through Tempe Marketplace in Two Harkins? Hot brick, hot fake grass, almost unbearable during the summer. The city needs to do more to promote cool surfaces, not just water conservation. None of us have all the solutions, but it is important to start moving on it. And my concern is that after looking at water, use it wisely, residents will rip out their grass and replace it with hot rock. Can we get that program to work on their messaging a little bit? My next item is Donnell Plaza, 8A1. Again, please do not fail the vision to maintain an arts and culture character for Donnell Plaza. As part of the agreement, please involve the neighborhoods early in the reformation of this historic district. Please add a community garden, and please include open spaces with shade trees, no hot surfaces, please. Again, collaboration very early in the process. This is the city's opportunity to create a model for what neighborhood.
I can give you 10 more seconds.
Okay. This is the city's opportunity to create a model for what neighborhood city contractor collaboration could look like and then apply it to all future projects. Please apply a collaboration approach to Donnell and all other projects mentioned in today's agenda.
I'm sorry, that's time too. I'm sorry, Ms.
Okay, yeah, late postcards are not enough.
No worries. Thank you so much. All right, the next speaker I have this evening is David Sokolowski. who I believe is attending virtually.
Mrs. Sokolowski, you can unmute your mic, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Please state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
My name is David Sokolowski. I live in Tempe. It's a mistake to build senior housing next to a live music venue at Denell Plaza, and it shouldn't matter your age or if you have a disability to determine if you qualify to live in an apartment. Tempe needs to build 1,000 low-income units per year, and if you're having a hard time accepting it, I don't blame you. It's a crisis and it requires drastic measures. Otherwise, what are we going to do when we need to build 2,000 low-income units per year? What exactly is Tempe's plan for affordable housing? How many acres of land are we going to buy? How many units per acre are we going to build? How much do we need to spend to achieve the desired outcome? And what does this mean for Denell Plaza? The last proposal would include 150 units below 80% AMI. That's less than 1% of Tempe's goal. At this rate, Tempe isn't even keeping pace with population growth. All of the city's affordable housing projects combined is equal to about 6 months of progress. Tempe claims it's doing everything it can to solve the housing crisis, but I feel confident I can prove that's not true. Tempe plans to spend $200 million on roads. It's shocking that the city thinks pavement quality index takes priority over housing inventory ratio. Tempe should probably spend $250 million on affordable housing in the next 5 years. Unless there is an extreme public health and safety concern, the city should be promoting high density. The opportunity cost at Denell Plaza could cost Tempe $10 or $20 million. Tempe shouldn't be restricting the density on affordable housing projects. Xenophobia is an irrational fear of shadows. Are we going to let poverty overwhelm our city because of an excuse like shadows or traffic? That's not hyperbole. There are many real examples in Tempe. If the developer could come back with a project that had 1,000 units, that's exactly the kind of projects we need to prevent Tempe from falling into a death spiral of rising land and development costs. It's better to accept changes now than to have Arizona override local control because Tempe was negligent in solving the housing crisis. That's what's happening in California and Florida, and it's going to happen here if cities like Scottsdale, Tempe, and Chandler continue to have chronic NIMBY attitudes towards affordable housing. The chair of the neighborhood said we don't need affordable housing at Denell Plaza, and if you can't afford to live here, then you don't belong in Tempe. That means there isn't an honest intention of being inclusive or equitable to renters, and it's impossible to sugarcoat housing to a NIMBY. It's time for the city to accept its full responsibility to solve the housing crisis and take immediate emergency action to mitigate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker, I have just as a note too, the Denell Plaza item is not a public hearing item, which is why these are all actually in public appearances, just to make sure that everybody understands why. So the next speaker I have this evening is Tim Palmer. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
So I'm confused. We can speak on Denell Plaza right now?
Yes, no, so technically it's not a public hearing item, which is why these are going to be in public appearances, and specific public hearing items, I'll bring up those speakers for those items.
So
but you can, you can speak, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Tim Palmer, a longtime resident of Tempe. I'm here to speak on Denell Plaza, a redevelopment that I support, but I have strong concerns. I live approximately 1,350 feet from Denell Plaza. Therefore, I take special concern on this project. I'm very concerned that you as the council will not work hard enough to make Denell Plaza redevelopment an extreme high priority of excellence. I'm not confident that the council and the DRC will demand iconic architecture and planning. The council and the DRC has been a complete failure on new projects built in the Smith Industrial Hub and the proposed Tempe Maker District on Broadway. Both projects are garbage architecture. The Denell Plaza project will increase traffic density and compromise traffic safety. I do not have any confidence whatsoever that the council will manage this project with visionary care. Voters are watching and have huge expectations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Kim Gaffney-Loza. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Kim Gaffney Loza from North Tempe, Arizona. Brought this up because I know I'm going to stumble over the words, but I just wanted to applaud you for the General Historic Properties Treatment Plan that the city is looking to put into effect. I think not only for the history of Tempe, but also really committing to being stewards of this land for our Native American population. This is a good step forward. And that's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have this evening is Robert Moore. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes. That was very chivalrous, Mr. Moore. I saw that, so.
It's only because she was wearing red. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Robert Moore, Tempe, Arizona. I do have some concerns regarding the proposed resolution, and hoping this can be resolved in the final development agreement. One, Denell Plaza is a local creative heritage site, and any redevelopment plans need to ensure that it remains a safe place to generate noise, create sound, and make music indoors and outdoors, so it can continue to be a productive and innovative environment for established and emerging musicians alike. Number two, housing development solutions should not present a threat to the creation or enjoyment of live music at the plaza, nor undermine Denell Plaza's 60-year history of supporting and nurturing Tempe's live music scene. Number three, affordable housing and maker studio spaces should be incorporated into the development concept to build on Denell's tradition of being an accessible and inclusive environment for local creatives, while offering a residential environment that builds with the plaza's live music heritage instead of against it. On that same note, I wanted to thank Council for its continuing support of Yucca Taproom owners Rodney Hugh and Sean Downing, and in terms of their guidance and leadership within the process. One final note, building on our 2019 research exploring a community-driven vision and engagement process for Denell Plaza with Professor Ellen Aroki, the ASU Architecture and Design Graduate School will be hosting a follow-up initiative this spring, generating diverse architectural concepts that honor the plaza's identity and history while building on community and city goals for the project in conjunction with various city departments and the development team. We'll be forwarding more information on this initiative shortly and encourage your involvement and support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Janelyn Granillo. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Janelyn Granillo. I'm a longtime resident of Tempe, Arizona, over 30 years. So I actually have a couple of items here for 7C2 and 8A1. In 7C2, regarding the special election and the 2050 plan, as many of you know, I did serve on the 2050 Commission. So I'd like to hear some discussion tonight or another night regarding what your plans are if the initiative fails. Because at this time, I previously asked if it could be split out between the map and the narrative. And the other piece is, if it goes forward whole, how are you going to incorporate the narrative, which we worked so very hard on and has some really good principles? How are you going to ensure that that gets included going forward? And the other thing regarding 8A is just to echo regarding Danielle Plaza, and basically a principle for any planning community that's being done is some discussion on how to include residents before the planning stage makes it down the road, and what that looks like. And that's beyond the surround, because what gets built high and dense will spill out, affecting a real broad range. So I don't know what that looks like in terms of notice and letting people know so that they can get involved earlier on. Thank you all for serving.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And the next speaker I have is Tom Zaworski. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Council. My name is Tom Zaworski. same as it was the last time I was here, which was the last meeting. I'm a 30-year resident of Tempe, and I'm here to talk about Denell Plaza. Tall buildings don't make a livable world-class city. They don't make an affordable city, despite the debunked economic philosophy of supply-side economics. I'm here to remind you once again, as I did with the 2050 general plan, when negotiating this development agreement, don't forget the adjacent neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods are occupied by people like me who have committed to the city of Tempe for decades. And we are, frankly, the heart and soul of this community. So I think you ignore us to your peril. This is a unique opportunity to be visionary, not to throw up the type of buildings that have been foisted on downtown Tempe, the charmless, characterless glass and steel monstrosities. And if that's what is going to happen with Denell, you'll be pushing that farther out, and maybe it's part of a greater vision. But it's not what the residents want. We don't want it encroaching on our neighborhoods. What we want is a development with character, something that honors the history of the area, the history of Denell Plaza, what it's used for, and be unique. We want something that's built on a human scale, because what I see down here is not a human scale. It's a monstrosity. We want it built so that it considers the needs, the concerns of the residents of Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is the last card I have this evening. There's another section for public appearances later in the agenda, but I will still ask, is there anyone else in the audience right now who'd like to come up and address the City Council? And if so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close that portion of the meeting. And I will move next up to the consent agenda, which is item number 7. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated as public hearing item at the beginning of the item title, and council members may remove any item for separate consideration or to declare a conflict. If a council member would like to declare a conflict at this time, the city clerk will provide the council member with a disclosure form. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item, please fill out a speaker card and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. The consent agenda this evening is listed as miscellaneous items 7A1 through 7A6, awards of bids and contracts 7B1 through 7B8, and resolutions 7C1 through 7C5, with the exception of item 7A1 since it was voted on by City Council during mayor's reports and announcements. So once again, any agenda item designated as public hearing item can be removed by a member of the public for separate consideration. If anyone would like to have a public hearing item removed, please get my attention now. All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, I should ask too, were there any comments received from the public wishing to address the City Council on a consent agenda public hearing item?
Nothing additional.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I'll turn to my council colleagues to see if they want something removed. Councilmember Garland?
Yes, Mayor, could you please remove and pull 7C3 and 7C4, please?
7C3 and 7C4. Council members, anything else that you'd like removed for separate consideration this evening? All right. Councilmember Hodge, anything from you? Nope, I'll take that as a no. Then I will go ahead and see if I can get a motion on the consent agenda, once again listed as... You just guys don't want to hear me talk, do you? Like, my goodness. I was going to say all the items on the consent agenda with the exception of 7A1, 7C3, and 7C4, which were removed for separate consideration. I don't even know who said. Councilmember Keating. Seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. Please vote. Councilmember Chin. Oh, there we go. And Councilmember Hodge. All right, so that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Hodge absent. All right.
Aye, sorry
Oh.
about that. My mute won't come off, so if I don't answer right away, it's because my mute button is not working right.
You got it. Well, then that item passes 7-0 with Councilmember Hodge here. All right, next up here. Let's go to item 7C3 that was removed for separate consideration by Councilmember Garland. And 7C3 is to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing Indigenous Peoples' Day as an official City of Tempe holiday. Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that, the city of Tempe has really been supportive of our the culture and the history in the city of Tempe, all different backgrounds and cultures. And I think this is just another one of those ways that we, specifically speaking about the Native American culture, are really making our land acknowledgement a living document. And we've done a few things, we've made sure that there was somebody from the 4 southern tribes on our Historic Preservation Commission, which I think was really important to do. Artwork, when there's requested in the city of Tempe, is also now looking, making sure that they give preference to the city of Tempe residents and Indigenous artists in the community. So I think we have really been doing a lot of things that have been proving that our land acknowledgement is really important to us. This vote would make Indigenous Peoples' Day a Tempe city holiday and a day to honor the cultural heritage and history and contributions of our Native American community. And I'm really proud of our staff, our council, everybody who has worked on this. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Garland. Any other members of council care to comment? Or if not, I'll look for a motion.
I do.
Oh, yes, Councilmember Hodge.
I just want to say that, I love the way Tempe is a pioneer in things. It's about time. We are actually talking about that, discussing it right now on the school board level. And they're talking about it being on the Tempe agenda. So thank you, Tempe, for putting it out there. I'm just proud to be and honored to be standing with you guys when we vote on this.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hodge. Anyone else, any further comments? It's been moved by Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Garland? Second. All right. And a second by Councilmember Garland. Please vote.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adams? You can give me a voice vote. Fine. Aye. Okay. And that item passes 7-0. Next up, item 7C4. Adopt a resolution adopting a general historic properties treatment plan for the city of Tempe, Maricopa County, Arizona. This was also removed for separate consideration by Councilmember Garland. Councilmember Garland?
Again, this is another one of those things that go just along the same lines as the last one that we just voted on. But again, the city of Tempe is making historic preservation a real high importance for us in this community. And again, once you lose your heritage and your history, what do we have to gain? We have stories, great stories to tell in the city of Tempe with the building and structures that we have and the stories that we have that we are sharing and trying to gather. So I just want to say that I'm really glad that we're doing this. It's so important to preserve the culture and history in Tempe, and I think this is wonderful.
Sounds good. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll take a motion. Moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item also passes 7-0. Next up, we'll move to item number 8, non-consent agenda. All items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Council members who may have a conflict of interest may abstain from voting on a matter, and the city clerk will provide the council members with a disclosure form at this time. First up, we have 8A, miscellaneous items, bids, contracts, and resolutions. First up, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute a development agreement with Guina Affiliated Developers, LLC, and Desert Viking Denell Plaza, or city-approved nominee, for the development of approximately 14 acres of land at Denell Plaza, located at the southwest corner of Mill Avenue and Southern Road. I actually just would love to see if Josh or Jeff might be willing to come forward and kind of talk about what this means. I was talking to some residents sort of offline and on social media about this. I know there was a little bit of confusion about what this actually does this evening, if this action is approved by council. So would it be either Jeff Tamielewicz, Josh Rutherford, one of you to come up and just explain to the public for transparency what this will do?
Thank you, Mayor. You get both of us.
All right. 2 for the price of 1. I'll take it.
Just generally, this is a framework and an agreement to move forward with the developers. Desert Viking and Guina affiliated developers. It's a commitment from them and the city to move forward, working towards a development agreement and preserving our asset, our city-owned asset, which is the lot in the center of Denell Plaza.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, sounds good. No, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't have any real comments either, other than to say, as many of the speakers talked about, I agree. Denell Plaza is a really iconic space in the city of Tempe that represents so much when it comes to music, arts, and culture. I know Rodney Hugh, who's part of the development team, was a good friend. His family started the Yucca Tap Room back in 1972, and it's remained in the family ever since. And I know one of the things when the city actually put out the first press release about this, probably about maybe 6 months after I became mayor, was talking about trying to find a way to bring some affordable and attainable housing to the site, along with preserving the very unique culture at Denell Plaza. The Yucca Tap Room is one of the few, and probably at this point, the oldest live music venue still remaining in Tempe, which I know is really critically important to each and every member of this council. And I frankly look at someone like Councilmember Navarro, I know is really champion bringing back a lot of that live music culture in the downtown and recognizing the artists who actually created the Tempe sound, as we all call it, in the first place. And so I know one of the things that we've all talked about very much is it is an opportunity really to create some additional much needed housing, perhaps in the affordable workforce and even market rate categories, but also very much so to create a unique development that really does capture the heart and the soul of what that plaza has meant to so many of this community for well over 40, 50 years. So what this does is it provides the opportunity for the city of Tempe and the two developers that were read in the agenda item to come together and begin conversations about what a development agreement could look like, begin to talk about discussing creating renderings, and to have the opportunity to interact with the public about what the future of that site might look like. It's been something we've all talked about doing for a number of years. This is the closest that we've ever been to getting something done, and I, for one, couldn't be more excited about the opportunity and to work with these two great development teams. Yes, Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. As someone who grew up in Tempe and did go to Merlin's to go see the Jetsons, if anybody's nodding, then you're as old as me. And also went to Manhattan Pizza there. I am really excited about this and the preservation of an important part of Tempe.
I was going to say that the first place I ever got food from back when I moved here in June of 2003 was at Capistrano's. Yes. It was the first place I ever got a sandwich from in Tempe. Councilmember Navarro?
I was going to say the first time I got a beer at 6 a.m. was at...
We tell all the stories up here.
Never knew I could do that after work, but we did. And Mayor, you said it all. I think it's just an appropriate place that this is the first start. We've been waiting for this for the longest time since we've been, on the council, talking about this corner, how strategic this corner is, the possibilities of what it's going to do and how it's going to transform just that area, but we're going to do it right. We're listening to our residents. We're making sure that we're doing a project that everyone can understand and everyone can be part of. But the fact that what we're talking about with live music and preserving what we have there, I think is strategic. It's vitally important. So I'm curious. This is a great first step forward, and I'm just anxious to see what we do.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Anyone else? Any further comments? Councilmember
Can I
Hodge?
say something?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say, growing up off of Priest and Southern, right down the way, I watched Denell Plaza from a child all the way up to an adult, and it's just an honor to be on council when this goes through, and to see that the Yucca Tap Room is not going anywhere, because that's something that Tempe High School teachers and the students tried to sneak into, but never, they never let us in. But just to see that happen, so thank you, and I'm just excited for the project.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. Any other comments or questions from council? Seeing none, then I will look for a motion in a second. It's been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Chin. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 8A2, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an intergovernmental agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation to design a bicycle and pedestrian underpass along College Avenue across University Drive. Council, any comments or discussion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote.
Aye.
That item passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 8A3, which is to award a construction manager at risk contract to Achin Gardner Construction LLC for the streetscape improvements 5th Street, Farmer to College Avenues, guaranteed maximum price 1 project located at 5th Street, Farmer Avenue to College Avenue. Council, any comments or discussion?
It's about time.
That's a comment.
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams and
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote.
Aye.
That item passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 8A4, which is to award a construction contract to Felix Construction Company for the improvements and expansion of well number 6, guaranteed maximum price 2 project located at 1411 East McKellips Road. Any comments or discussion? Okay, I think it's been moved by Councilmember Hodge, I believe, and seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 8A5, which is to award a construction contract to B&F Contracting Incorporated for the jointly owned Rehabilitation 2022 Guaranteed Maximum Price 3 project located at Priest Drive and Rio Salado Parkway. Any comments or discussion? Been moved by Councilmember Keating, seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote.
Aye.
That item passes 7-0. The last item under the section is 8A6, which is to approve the utilization of a 21-month City of Phoenix cooperative contract with Mercy House Living Centers for the provisioning of non-congregate shelter and case management services at Suze Espacio.
So moved to approve.
Been moved by Vice Mayor Adams. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Adams. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item also passes 7-0. The next section on the non-consent agenda is ordinances and items for introduction and first hearing. These items will be read and introduced tonight, but no votes will be taken. The second hearings and votes for these items are scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The first item under the section is 8B1, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt a resolution for a general plan land use map amendment from open space to mixed use, a general plan residential density map amendment from medium high density and no density to high density urban core, adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from general industrial district within Rio Salado overlay district and transportation overlay district to mixed use high density within the RSOD and TOD, and adopt a planned area development overlay to establish development standards for municipal rezoning of First and Farmer, located at 26 South Farmer Avenue. The applicant is Huell Mantle and Affiliates, and I see Mr. Huell Mantle up here. Would you like to give a presentation?
I would, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce Todd Marshall as well, business partner on this project, and several others we've done before you in the same area. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time kind of talking about how we got here. I guess it's appropriate. We've been talking about history all night, and I'm going to continue that trend and talk a little bit about history as well. I know everyone on council knows the site. You all know Farmer Arts District, and you all know the properties that we're talking about here. They've been under discussion many times before the city, this time in a positive way as we look to move forward. The site is just north of First Street and continues what has been for many years Farmer Arts District. The site currently has a number of challenges. One of them is that it has industrial zoning, which is a remnant of a time long since gone. This has transformed into a great neighborhood over time, and Todd and I are happy to have been part of that. I'll get into that more, but both Todd and I live and work in Tempe, like all of you, and like several people have heard tonight, for 30 or more years. I'm going to kind of move ahead and talk about what Farmer Arts and this area was before it became the Farmer Arts District. It's been a lot of things over time, but it had a great past as a citrus packing plant, as a furniture manufacturing facility, and then for decades as nothing. It sort of fell into disrepair. It was a series of empty buildings, empty parking lots, and just foundations. It was a pretty rough spot, and it really served as a way to separate the downtown from the neighborhood. We have instead tried to do the opposite, bring the two together. In fact, our slogan was where the heart of the neighborhood meets the heart of the city. We promised to do lots of things on a pretty tough piece of property. People talk about Farmer Now, and it's great to hear people talk about how wonderful it is. It makes both Todd and I feel great. We really care about the work that we've done to get this to the point where it is today, and to change it from being industrial land that was vacant and problematic and full of drug needles and beer bottles to a place where people call home. And lots of people do. The first product that we built was Encore, and it was and still is an affordable housing project for seniors. We've heard a lot of discussion even tonight about the need for housing and affordable housing. Many years ago, before people were having that discussion, we proposed and worked with the council to bring affordable housing. The mayor, in fact, was a big advocate of bringing affordable housing at the time. And there were others on council at the time who didn't think affordable housing would be a good thing. And we're really proud that today that it's a place where people live. And just this morning, I ran by the building, and people were out walking their dogs and doing what people do in the morning, and it's just an integral part of their life. We built a place for people to live. And the second, before I go on, I think another thing that we're really proud of with Encore, several things I suppose, is the solar. There's solar all over this building. The entire roof is solar. The parking structures have solar on them. And the bulk of the site where we could put solar, we put solar, and we're proud of that. One of the things we also hope you'll notice as you walk around the Farmer Arts District is it's pretty unique. I mentioned how thin the site is and how problematic it is, and we spent a lot of time and energy working trying to create this area next to the tracks, below power lines, and making it a place where people could be, and not just the people who live there, but also the people who walk by, who live in the neighborhood, who people experience the building because they live there or they work there, but they also experience it because it's part of their daily commute. In Tempe, for a long time, we've worked to make things more pedestrian friendly. But we think that we're an example of this. And in every side of our buildings, there's a way to walk. There's a way to walk in shade, in a place designed for pedestrians. And every one of our buildings has four-sided architecture. You don't see that very often. There are a lot of challenges that go along with that. Probably one of the reasons that Todd and I look as old as we do is because we've had to think through all those issues and try to create good solutions. He's probably not happy I said that, but I can't see him now, so I don't know for sure. Again, this is what it looks like today, but this is what it looked like when we started. You can see it's a very narrow site. It had trees. Most of them were not alive, and they certainly didn't provide shade, and you can tell there wasn't even a place to walk, really. It was a pretty industrial place. But today, what you see is upgraded paving materials, and we're delighted to hear tonight that Tempe is moving forward on 5th Street and soon on Mill and trying to create a similar kind of environment. We didn't want to be exactly what Mill Avenue was. We didn't want to have the bricks, but we wanted the same kind of feel. We wanted it to be akin to Mill, to have its own identity, but to have great landscaped areas, to have wide areas for people to walk. Certainly, at this period of time, Tempe was trying to figure out how to go back and retrofit sidewalks so that they would be accessible for folks with disabilities. And we made sure that when we built this, every one of our areas, you could easily pass without crossing a step. You'll also notice that we had permeable pavers because we did water harvesting, which is another reason we think that when you drive by, or at least we hope when you drive by, you'll notice how much our landscaping has taken root, probably more than most places, and also how much more of it than you see from the average building, because you're seeing it on all four sides. The second project that we did was a mixed income, and to the best of my knowledge, it's the only one in Tempe. What that means is that some of the units are affordable, and some of them are market rate. And again, we're proud when we walk by or drive by that we see the residents who live there. This was a place that was literally used for only illicit activities, and now people consider it their home. And in both projects, we've had great luck with retention. Many of our residents have been there even since we opened, and they continue to live because they love being near the downtown and they love being in a walkable area. Again, that's what it started as, and that's what it looks like today. Again, four-sided architecture, places for people to walk, shade. Again, that's what it started as. Next thing we worked on was culinary dropout, and it had been a long since emptied furniture warehouse. It had become a production facility for studio productions, and we worked with Sam Fox to bring a restaurant in. And I remember a couple things. I remember the mayor walking the property as a council member and trying to help us convince Sam that this would be a good place to have a restaurant. But I also remember sitting at a bar counter with Sam the night before Culinary Dropout opened, and I remember him saying in very serious tone, I hope people will cross the tracks. I hope people will come here. It was the most expensive restaurant he had built at the time. It was a huge risk for Sam. He believed in Tempe, and it became fairly shortly one of his most successful restaurants. But it was a risk. We're trying to change what happened there. And I think even as you think down First Street, Todd and I have been involved in many of those projects. What we ended up doing was taking an area that was highly industrial and making it one of the really most residential portions of Tempe. And I think that's becoming really critical as we see all the offices that's been built on the lake. I think one of the things that we're learning over time is that people, especially younger people, really want to live close to where they work. They want to be able to walk to the office. And I know you've received your packet, and there are a number of letters in there from businesses who are saying exactly that to bring the talent they need and to retain the talent, they need places for people to live where they can walk. This is Culinary Dropout today. I'm pretty sure you've all been there. We also worked on the Vibe, which is a hotel that recently opened, maybe a year or so ago, and has a rooftop deck, as we had promised all along, and again, really adds to the mix of uses in Farmer. So we have market rate units, we have mixed income units, we have a hotel, we have the Hudson, which is the most recent residential project we did, which I think really finishes off nicely that corner of University and Farmer. And then we worked on the Beam. The Beam is an office building, finished fairly recently. It is something we're very proud of. It's the first CLT building in Arizona. And what that means is it's got laminated timbers. So the inside of this building is incredibly environmentally friendly, and we've designed it as such. But the building itself, instead of being made out of steel or concrete, is literally made out of timbers. And it makes, we think, for a fascinating workspace. Again, this is what we started with, and today we have great pathways, great walkways, multi-use pathways, and places that people use. On any given day, you'll notice our residents and folks in our office building using it, but you'll also notice that a lot of people from the neighborhoods around come and use that space. They feel like that's their space too. That's by design. Again, it's for the people that use the building because they live in it or work in it, but also for the people who use it because it happens to be the way they get to work. We were always hoping it would be part of the urban fabric, and we're proud that it has become that. We've won a number of awards. In 2013, we won the Crescordia Award. In 2014, we won a number of awards. 2023, we won awards for the Beam. And so we're proud that these buildings are buildings that other people have articulated respect for as well. We worked hard on them, and it feels great for us to see people really care that, notice that we took care to make the buildings what they are today. So I want to get to First Street and Farmer. That's what we're here to talk about today. And it's a site that's had lots of problems over time. It has a big water line on it from the city of Phoenix. It has a levee. It had legal challenges for a long, long time. It sits in a floodplain, portions of it, and it has a unique feature on it that is a historic house, and we have pledged with the city to work to restore that house. You know, it's interesting, you look at the house, as many do, and think, well, God, who would put a house there? Except it was 1880, and there wasn't a First Street that was this high up to its roof line, and there was a railroad there, but it wasn't this high. And unfortunately, those two factors alone have really put that building in jeopardy because you'd never build a building there. And they didn't. They built the building first. And it's an opportunity for us, as you've said, to restore and to sort of protect that history and incorporate that into other things that we do moving forward. And we're excited about doing that. We've talked with a number of people in the community. We've certainly been working with your staff to preserve the building. It sits, because of where it is, water literally just pours into it. It sits at the bottom of two hills, which is far less than ideal. It also has a number of things on it today, as you can see, that I don't believe the city of Tempe ever issued permits for. And those pieces are causing the original structure some harm. And so we're working with your staff even now to get rid of those pieces that were added and to preserve what we can now, and then we'll come back to you with a plan as to how we'll preserve and respect that building in the future. But I think one of the reasons that we're so anxious to move forward is because the longer we wait, the worse that building is going to get. It's really in an awkward position, and it needs love and attention, and we really want to do that. And this is the site today. It's got lots of challenges, but we know that we can work through them. The site is in a great location despite some of its challenges. As we talk about density, and another number of speakers have spoken about that tonight, it's a place where you'd expect to find density. Tempe has, over the last several decades, been the leader in public transportation. We started with our own bus tax. We've had bus routes. We were one of the first to have the Orbit system, which was a neighborhood circulator. We fought to be one of the first folks to have light rail, and we did. We have a streetcar, the only streetcar. And all of these assets, in addition to the bike paths and the other multimodal solutions, I see Eric Iverson here somewhere, I did earlier. Eric has always been a champion for creating a walkable city, and it's great that over time others have come aboard, but there's literally 20 years of Eric's work in building these roads and routes, and we hope to tie into those and continue to provide places for people to sort of access, including not the least of which is to mention our significant office space. Office space has certainly had challenges over the last several years. And an unfortunate time for Tempe because we were at the beginning of COVID really dominating and being the place people really wanted to be for offices. Well, that isn't the case anymore. People don't want to go to work. They don't want to work from the office, I guess I should say. It's probably both are true. I'm certain I'm going to feel that way tomorrow, that I don't want to go to work either, having been here so late. But as we learn what companies need, they need places where people can walk to work. They need to be in an urban fabric so that they can recruit the talent from other places. And we think that this site really allows that to happen. I could go on for hours, and I know that's probably not helpful. So at this point in time, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the historic preservation Todd and I have been involved in on the site, and then I think move on. Todd and I have been involved in several things, as is Andrew Cohn, who's not here tonight, but also our partner on the deal. We work to preserve pieces of the culinary dropout establishment. If you go inside, there's a big piece of it that was saved at great cost, but it also adds great culture. My office itself is from 1880 and has been restored and still in good use today. Todd was involved in Casa Loma, which is 3rd and Mill, and still in place today. And so we think we're prepared to handle the historic preservation piece. We think we're prepared to handle bringing this site into the urban fabric of downtown, and we're really excited to be here. Are there any questions I could answer?
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Huelmantel. Any comments or questions from council? Vice Mayor Adams?
I just am really excited about you being able to preserve the historic building and appreciate you incorporating that into the project. So thank you so much.
Thanks. It'll add some challenges, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Yep. I know you'll do a good job with it.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do too is just reserve the opportunity to call Mr. Huelmantel back up later if we need to, but I want to make sure that we also get to the public hearing portion of this, and thank you for the presentation. So I've got one card this evening on this item, and that card is from Tom Brown. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
My name is Tom Brown. I live in South Tempe, and I work on Farmer Avenue. I spoke about this rezoning a couple of weeks ago at a DRC hearing, and I was less than articulate, so let me be more clear. The core of downtown, the area south and southeast of the City Hall, has become extremely densely developed. Not necessarily a good thing, but I think the horse has left that barn. Some members of the community may think that unlimited development to maximize profit is good. It's not necessarily good urban design. I think we all recognize the land at First and Farmer has what has become an obsolete zoning designation and will change. What is unsettling is the lack of transition. This land is west of the railroad tracks and should be a transition step, not more unlimited sprawl oozing from downtown. Can we agree there are limits to what can and should be built in such proximity to existing low-rise homes and neighborhoods that are established? The developers have asked for very specific stipulations with this case before showing any design solutions. Now, stipulations usually in real estate mean things you can't do. In this case, it's things they want to be able to pre-approve that they can do. I think it's a small nibble when it's going to be followed by a large bite. When someone shows up in this council and says to you, this is what we need to make it pencil out, I hope you can keep a straight face as you dismiss a childish attempt at justification. This proposed height is 4 times the height of the other buildings between the tracks and Farmer Avenue. This is not a transition or respectful at all to neighbors. The proposed 550 units on this narrow 2-lane street is nothing but greed, and the zero-dimension building setback is a pure land grab. Now, that was a bad idea downtown, and here it's ridiculous. I also hope you recognize this massive market rate housing block will not help with Tempe's affordability. The free market only cares about profit. People in livable cities obviously do not matter to the free market. So if I can point you to page 9 of the staff report, which includes suggested stipulations for approval. The sentence just under the title says, the decision-making body can modify, delete, or add to these conditions. So please consider how you can stipulate less of a giveaway before you vote for any rezoning of this parcel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate it. All right, this is a public hearing item. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion. Council, any comments or discussion? All right, seeing none, just want to reiterate, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The next item under the section is 8B2, which is introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt a resolution for a general plan projected density map amendment from high density to high density urban core, adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from CSS Transportation Overlay District, TOD, to MU4 TOD, a planned area development overlay to establish development standards, and a development plan review for a new 5-story mixed-use development consisting of 167 dwelling units and commercial use on 1.95 acres for Apache Square, located at 1747 East Apache Boulevard. The applicant is Gamage and Burnham, PLC, and I see Ms. Manjula Vaz. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Nice to see you. I will just make a brief presentation today and happy to answer any questions. The site, as you, I'm sure, well aware, is the southeast or southwest corner of Apache McClintock. Used to be the old Pep Boys. It's currently vacant. Just to the west of what I know is Tempe Grigio, and then the parking garage. I know Wendy knows the new name. So just to cut.
I can't remember it either, actually.
I don't know. Wendy can tell us later what the but anyway, I know we all know the site. So just to give you there's a brief context. Our request is to change the general plan, which now is consistent with the general plan 2050, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We'll do a zoning map amendment to go from CSS to TOD MU4, do a planned area overlay, and then development plan review standards. This is the general plan 2040, and just talk about the density. Where we're doing our current density is up to 65. We're asking for a general plan amendment, which actually matches. We started this process before the council voted on General Plan 2050, but certainly we're having our density match what the council voted on, and obviously the whole community voted together or worked on in terms of General Plan 2050. Again, just as I was saying. So the project is a 5-story mixed-use building of 167 residential multifamily apartments, a mix of studios, 1s and 2s. We have street-level retail along Apache and McClintock. We have most of our retail along Apache. Along McClintock, we have 2 things happening. One, we have more live-work, and then for those of us, including me, who travel south of McClintock, we have expanded the bus shelter, and we kind of have also have a bus pull-out, which will help some of that traffic flow a little bit better on McClintock and help some of the movement along McClintock, both from pedestrians crossing, using light rail, for the bikes, because we only have one access point on McClintock, and we have no more real curb cuts on Apache right now. And so we've heard some of the bottleneck, as we all know, kind of comes from, especially when Pep Boys was active, people coming in and out of that parking lot. Sorry. So this is just, the other thing it does, obviously we planted a lot of trees and shades, and I from Councilmember Navarro and Councilmember Garland, we all talk about landscaping and shading, so we're certainly doing a lot more shading and trees. We have a little bit of outdoor dining on Apache as Apache starts to develop, and as you can see in terms of the bus stop, you'll see a much bigger bus stop with a new bus stop shelter for people who want to use the transit line going south on McClintock. Just a couple of renderings just to show you a little bit about the corner. It's very similar to the other projects on Apache. And we're very excited about the design. We think we've tried to kind of put a little innovative design. We've had a really good conversation with members of CVAC, with Matt and Phil, and oops, I'm going fast, but the corner, and the garage is fully enclosed. And I was going to show you, and then we also, this is what I was trying to get to, sorry, that we do have spent a lot of time with CVAC, and we come here with their support. They made some changes that we have incorporated into the project, both in terms of design and some art. And I just wanted to second, we talked a little bit about, I think it's on this side, maybe doing a little bit of art, potentially just above the bus stop. And so that's some things we'll still talk to them about, but we're really excited about this project. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Foz. Really appreciate it. The only comment I was going to make was that I really appreciate you working with CVAC, which is Citizens for a Vibrant Apache Corridor, about the reduction of some of the commercial space at the ground floor, because I know the Grigio building, or whatever it is called now, they have had challenges for a long time trying to lease out space at the ground floor, and there's nothing worse than we know than sort of ground floor retail that isn't frankly fully leased, and people walk by big windows with nothing going on. And so I really appreciate the fact that when people do housing, and that really is their particular thing, and they do that very well, and they know how to lease and provide spaces to people, that they actually sort of focus on that as opposed to trying to do street activation, which they might not do quite as well when it comes to leasing retail tenants. So I actually really appreciate the fact that we're going to get some other additional amenities for the residents there and some additional units, as opposed to just simply trying to create more retail space, which might or might not be used. So thank you for working with Phil Amorosi and Matt Salinger to make that change. I think that's a really critically important change. So thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else? Councilmember Navarro?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, first off, and the design is beautiful. I actually like how it pops and how the angles are, and I also appreciate, and I hope I'm seeing it right, some depth possibly to the balconies, which is something that, when I look in other cities, it's one of those things that's part of your living area for a lot of people. And just to have the ability to sit out there comfortably, maybe have a TV set, I don't know what it is, but it also helps us compete with other cities of an attractive place to live. So you're giving that opportunity, and I kind of echo this to a lot of developers to please put some depth in those balconies if you can. This is an opportunity for us. I know that probably 4 months out of the year we probably won't sit out there, but a good amount of the year we will be sitting out there, and I think that's key for the presidents. The retail on the bottom floor, I can understand with input and having minimum retail or no retail. I kind of differ on that a little bit. I think the opportunity of retail or some retail might have some value to it if we're going there. I think across the street on the other side, I tend to over years think that the person or the people that own that property have made retail or inviting people into that area a challenge. So I don't know if it's the ownership, so to speak, or to the location, but I know that location, driving by it nearly daily, does have foot traffic over there, and have an opportunity for some retail I think is huge.
No, and I agree with you, Councilmember Navarro. So maybe I misspoke. So what we're doing is putting focusing the retail on Apache. So as you can see here, and then what we hope to do is do more live work on McClintock with smaller amount of retail. But we do have retail.
Okay.
And we're committed to it. And so we know, and kind of that's why we put the outdoor seating and outdoor patios on Apache.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you so much. Vice Mayor Adams?
Thank you for the presentation. Are you going to have anywhere for like a little dog area or?
I don't know if we'll have I don't know if we'll have an area for a little dog area, but we certainly have some kind of interior for walking around. And then, of course, Hudson Park's not too far away.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. And also, I really like the look of the project. I think I concur with Councilmember Navarro about the depth, and I will be voting for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Garland.
I was driving by this purposely today just to kind of see the site. So I'm so much more visual, so I can see what you're doing, and I do like the look of this. But I have a question regarding the bus stop. Is that you are going to be making the bus stop with the great shade on that? Okay, because I know we have that in the process for the city of Tempe, and if that's one that we've been thinking we're going to do and we don't have to do now, is great. So I appreciate that. That shade is really needed on those bus stops. So thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Navarro?
Yeah, just to follow up, the property just south of there,
Yes.
what,
Yeah, well, we can, Mayor, Councilmember Navarro, we've tried to work with them. They've, no, but what we have done is there's a way within the design that one day as we kind of continue to work, and I know the mayor has been helpful in trying to work with that theoretically this could expand a little bit if that ever happened.
perfect, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, anyone else from council, any further comments or questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much. Really
Thank you so much.
appreciate it. All right, this also is a public hearing item as well. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. Ms. Till, yes, please come forward. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Ann Till, Tempe resident. My only comment on this is it looks pretty. I live pretty close to that, but the thing is it's on light rail. It's near schools and near parks, a couple schools and a couple parks, and there's only 10, I think I saw, 3-bedroom units. It seems like it'd be perfect for family units. So I kind of wonder why a lot of these units along Apache, they're really kind of student housing. But they seem like they should be more family housing. So why not get more family housing? And I don't know if there's any affordable housing. I don't think that was mentioned, but it's along light rail. It's near parks and schools. So I kind of feel like that's a little bit of a fail on Apache, so wanted to just bring that up. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Till. Appreciate it. Quick thing, Ms. Boz, just follow up on, so the project is all market rate, correct? Okay. So she said yes, just for the audience at home. And the other thing is, just to Ms. Till's other question regarding the unit mix about the 10 3-bedroom units, is there any kind of more explanation as to why the developer is proposing that kind of unit mix with that few 3 bedrooms?
Mayor, so just so you speak that, members of the council, we've actually been talking to, and we've talked to Ryan a little bit. When we started this project, it's been a couple of years, we, as you may remember, talked about making this project a smaller project, then we tried to expand it. We're actually talking to Ryan, I've talked to Ryan recently, about potentially expanding the project a little bit. What we want to do is complete this phase, and then we may be doing an amendment that we're going to look at potentially doing some larger units.
Okay.
And then talk about, some other mixture. But at this rate, when we started talking about it, we were so far in this process, we thought we'll just finish, we're going to come back to you, but we may be back to you in a couple of months to kind of add a little bit of mixture in terms of density in a couple of bedrooms. I don't disagree with some of the comments that we would maybe add a couple more 3 bedrooms depending on how the mixture goes. In terms of 3 bedrooms, I think so far the market has kind of driven 1s and 2s, but I think you are seeing maybe more families who want to take advantage of Apache.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Any other comments from council? Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
For the explanation. Thank you, Ms. Till, for the question as well. All right. Any further comments or questions on this item? Once again, this is a first public hearing, so there'll be no vote this evening, but just wanted to check with council. All right, hearing none. Once again, the second and final public hearing for this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The next item under this section is 8B3, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a planned area development overlay to modify building height and a development plan review for a new 28-story mixed-use development with 380 units for 211 East 7th Street, located at 211 East 7th Street. Shocking. The applicant is Barry Riddell, LLC, and I see Wendy Riddell here. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. My pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of Trinitas. Hopeful he's pulling up a presentation for me. Wonderful. So we are here tonight to talk about a planned area development to establish development standards. Our site here is on 7th Street. It's a mid-block location between Forest and College north of University Drive. The site itself is pretty tiny. It's 0.61 acres, currently zoned CCTOD. We are, however, seeking 28 stories, 314 feet in height to the mechanical screen, 287 feet to the roof deck. I will drill down a little bit on that for you here in a minute. We are looking at 380 market rate residential units, commercial space along 7th Street, approximately 3,000 square feet. You can see our lot coverage, landscaped areas. And again, these are market rate apartments. This is not student housing. Some of the indicators of that and how we can make that very clear to everybody is just looking at the difference between what you see in student housing, and I know this council is very familiar with it, versus what it is we're proposing. One of the key indicators, of course, is the bedroom mix here. We have no 4-bedroom units. It's just studio, 1, 2, and some 3-bedroom. It's a higher percentage, higher parking ratio. It's a highly amenitized project. It also has a delivery tied to the regional housing cycle. And its lease type, of course, is structured around units and not bedrooms. So again, market rate housing. There's quite a few policy documents. I promise I won't talk a lot, but just to add the support that is here for this. The downtown ASU Rio Salado Northwest Neighborhood Character Area Plan supports everything that we're here proposing this evening. The downtown community design principles, again, as well. In particular, talk about this type of articulation, the slender towers that you see, that unique kind of H shape in the design, shafts of tall buildings, as well as the Mill and Lake District principles, again, focusing on that comfortable, pedestrian, walkable experience. And of course, as this council knows, this is intended to be the most intense, most dense part of Tempe, as shown on that downtown Mill Area District community design principles. The downtown building height actually calls this site out as urban center for 300 feet in height. You also know, I think probably better than I could ever imagine at this point, all about your general plan, which also intends for this to be the most intense, high-density urban core for Tempe. We did think it was quite interesting. So I guess it's the existing, but not the one you recently voted on, talked about maintaining the downtown Tempe Lake ASU as a central core of Tempe by establishing high-density land use. Of course, if you look at what was recently adopted by this council, that is expanded. It talks about maintaining and expanding the downtown Town Lake ASU as a central urban core of Tempe. That's precisely what we're here proposing this evening. And of course, this is what that looks like on your recently approved general plan. So just briefly talking about building height, we also wanted a chance to provide a little bit of context here and give you an indication of what this would look like and why we believe it's very contextually appropriate, not only because it's consistent with all of the policy documents I've just talked about in your recently approved general plan, because it fits within the context here of Tempe. So when you take some of these vantage points, and if you look up at that top right-hand corner, there's a little key map that tells you where you're standing, and you look down the street. So here we're on Mill Avenue, we're coming into Tempe, we've just crossed over the bridge. And you can see and kind of put all of this in context what that skyline would look like. And I think, again, very contextually appropriate for the urban core of Tempe. This is your view. So here you're now on University Drive. You've just come in off of Rural. You're looking to the west, and you can see, again, what that would look like. Very appropriate with the surrounding projects. This same view, looking south on Forest Avenue. So now you're down in Forest. You're looking down where some of those taller buildings are, and again, you can see how, again, very contextually appropriate. And then lastly, the view looking east along University Drive. So looking to the east, you can see, you barely see us. It's a little smidgen of a building. Again, very appropriate for what you see here in the area. And then I also wanted to point out, as we talk about height, where we talk about to the very tallest point, the 313, that's to the top of the mechanical screen, that's actually set back very far into the building. It's really not something you're ever going to see at a pedestrian level. The roof deck here itself is actually at that 287 foot. So really only 11% up to that 313, again, tucked back into the middle. Again, all of that very appropriate given the context here in the urban center. And then just wanted to give you an idea of what that would actually look like here in terms of elevations. We spent a lot of back and forth, had some very valuable discussion actually with your DRC and with your staff, and ultimately I think created a project and a product that will be beautiful here, that you've got a rooftop amenity deck, you've got the parking that is well screened by the metal panels. Gives some idea of what that looks like. You might see the outline of the church here. The massing to the left would be the Atmosphere Project. As you scroll in, there's this is kind of that top, that amenity deck, and we're working on getting for the next council meeting some images of what that looks like when it's lit up at night. I think it creates a little bit of that neat look at the top and makes it really distinguishable. Again, now at the pedestrian level, get a sense of what that looks like, again, with that retail space. Again, here as well, you can get the idea of that retail space. Of course, all of this is on the north side of the building, so there'll be significant shade here, and I think it will really make it a very comfortable, walkable pedestrian space as a result. And then to give you an idea what the back of the building looks like, coming in off of that alley to the back, what that context, you can see, of course, four-sided architecture has been included here. We talked a few minutes here about amenities as well. As I told you, it's a very highly amenitized project. It's got a fitness center, pool, hot tub, electric vehicle charging is included, sun decks, garden areas, a lot of multi-function space here as well for people that want to work. Co-working space, reception area, dog exercise area, because I know that's very important as we talk about our pets here as well. Bike wash, storage, grilling areas. Give you an idea of what that looks like. There's a floor 9 that will have an amenity deck, rooftop amenities. You see a pool, but you also see a seating and an eating area, highly amenitized. And the dog exercise areas, which you'll see are actually kind of these unique insets into the building that allow an area for pets to come out that you can access through the garage there as well. So an area, an urban living with our pets. Yes, like that as well. So again, just ending here, the pedestrian experience on 7th Street has been sort of the hallmark of our design principles as we put this together. We've really focused on what that 7th Street ground floor will look like, how there will be shade trees, be promoting that comfortable environment, visual interest, best utilizing that commercial space, and again, on that north side of the street to create shade. Give you, again, an idea of what that will look like. But with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Ms. Riddell. Let me do this first. Let me do the public hearing item really quickly, and then I'll bring you back up for comments or questions from council.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So the first speaker I have this evening is Chris Tawney. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Chris Tawney. I am a resident of the City of Phoenix. I'm also the Director of Development for the ASU Newman Center, which is the immediately to the south of the project. I just wanted to state that as an organization, we're excited about the growth of downtown. And we're excited, just as we've seen kind of post-COVID and with the immediate projects that have come out, including Mirabella, we've seen a nice influx of new members to the community there, which is obviously always helpful. And at this point, we're excited about the additional housing that will be going in the area, and we're in support of this project.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Trevor Barger. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor, Council, Trevor Barger, Tempe, Arizona. I am a longtime resident and supporter of urban Tempe. We need residential in downtown. We've already installed the transit. We have the transit center and light rail 2.5 blocks to the north of this site. And we have the streetcar 2.5 blocks to the west of this site. And it's really fun to be in front of you talking about measurements in blocks, not miles. We already have dining, 12 restaurants within 1 block of this site. We already have churches and a synagogue, 2 and 1, within 1 block of this site. And we already have the largest employer in Tempe, 1.5 blocks from this site. This is exactly where we need to take full advantage of the setting and add as many homes as possible because of everything that's provided here. In full disclosure, I'm also the council chair of the adjacent ASU Catholic Newman Center. We control the site currently via a 99-year lease, and we lease it from the family who owns it, who has ran the bookstore on the corner for 49 years. And so we're very interested in the long-term condition of our neighbors and kind of what happens all around us in Tempe. We think it would be, as to say, a sin not to take advantage of all or waste the opportunity here. I support this project and ask you to vote yes and approve the project.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next card I have is from Father Aaron Qureshi. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Father Aaron Qureshi. I'm a Tempe resident, and I'm also the assistant chaplain at the Newman Center, located directly south of this building site. Our primary focus at the Newman Center has been on students, to the ASU community over the last century. But increasingly, with the buildup here in downtown Tempe, we find ourselves ministering to more and more families, and with Mirabella especially going in, our senior citizens as well. And so they brought a new, energy and excitement to our parish beyond strictly the student population. So we're excited about welcoming new residents right across the alleyway from where we are. We're excited about their presence and kind of the mixed use dwellings that are presented there. Also, we just wanted to say that we've kind of worked with Trinitas, the development company, a couple of years now probably, and we found them pretty responsive to our needs. And I know they had a lot of back and forth with your subcommittee here as well, and kind of tried to accommodate different people's needs. And so we've been grateful for that. So we are very much in favor of this project. We'd love to see it move forward. My parishioners wish I could limit my homilies to 3 minutes, but.
Thank you, Father. From the vote earlier this evening, my council members would say the same thing about me. So, all right. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council? This is a public hearing item. If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close that portion of the meeting. I guess I'll ask Ms. Riddell to join us back up here. Council, any comments or questions for Ms. Riddell? Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Ms. Riddell.
Hello.
I have no issue with height. I have no issue with density, especially in our urban core, where it's appropriate. I am in Arizona and I love shade. My concern, so can you go back to the slide where it's a north facing, I want to see, okay, that one's fine. The one with the cars, that's the north side of the building, right?
This is the north side.
Okay. I spend a good amount of my days in that intersection, traveling between my workplace and City Hall. The intersection on College in 7th is extremely dangerous without this building and without the additional density. It's a weird T shape. I think you may be familiar with it. Okay. So that's one of my concerns. The other, and as a member, as a co-chair of the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee, where we're encouraging measures of solar and alternative energy, it seems, and this is a question or a comment, it seems that the height of this building is going to severely impact this extensive section or an extensive solar panel project on the east of this building, of this proposed building, on the parking garage.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Chin, so let me address both of your comments and then tell you when I come back to see you again here shortly, I'll have some of the graphics with me that might do a little better job of explaining it. But first, as you mentioned that intersection, I appreciate the concern, but I can tell you that the crash data that we've looked at with our traffic engineer doesn't suggest that. I can also tell you this really is going to be, I mean, I think Mr. Barger gave a great rebuttal for me on this very topic. The connectivity here to light rail, the connectivity to the restaurants, to employment, to the school itself, this is intended to be a pedestrian environment. In fact, on the very agenda tonight, you guys voted to fund the pedestrian tunnel there under University as well. So I think all of those things come together to tell you that we will not be impacting the safety negatively, but I will have my traffic engineer here next time to address that for you, perhaps in even greater detail.
Sure. Also in the fall, that street is closed off on Saturdays for a good amount of time.
We will take a look at that as well.
It closed down and ingress and egress to that area. So everything is pushed west of the building. So it then further adds pressure to all of the intersections west of the area when you close that down.
So we'll come back prepared to address that, Councilwoman Chin. I think the solar you're discussing is the solar on top of ASU's garage.
It's an ASU foundation building, yes.
Foundation building. So I think, and again, we'll come back with graphics to demonstrate, but you know, all of downtown, if you look at your plan to have 300-foot tall buildings, all of that produces shade. And if the city starts to take the perspective that there's rights to ensure that shade doesn't cover adjacent buildings, I think we're getting into very dangerous territory.
I appreciate your response to that. My concern is we've got this established solar project there that's actively collecting solar power, right? There's a loss there. So that's my concern.
Understood.
Sounds good. Thank you. Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, I'm very excited that you have a dog exercise area. I really appreciate that, and I hope that's a message to further developers to please consider dogs.
You have warned us of that, and we tell all our clients of that.
Okay, thank you very much.
That message seems to be trickling down.
I like it. I like it. I know that you're doing that too on the project on Warner, so I appreciate it. Also, I would love to see a few more trees if we can. In that area, I mean, the more the better. We're really trying to increase our shade canopy. So that would be excellent. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Garland?
Hi, Wendy. You had said that this is not geared towards students.
Correct.
So do you have an age requirement for?
So Mayor, Councilmember Garland, we don't have an age requirement. We are struggling with that in light of both fair housing and the anti-discrimination ordinance in Tempe. So best I can tell you is how I've described these units to you and making sure we implement measures to ensure that it is indeed market rate housing.
Okay. So my office, I can look out my office window and I see the atmosphere. And for the last couple weeks, I've been looking out there trying to picture a 28-story building, one that's 8 stories higher than that, sitting right next to it, and realizing that in the drawings that there is, I think it's 6 or 7 stories of parking. And then on top of that, then just walking down there to try to see what it was looking like. It's a lot for pedestrians, as Councilmember Chin had mentioned, but I'm also thinking about the traffic, for the vehicle traffic that'd be going down there. One of the things that you just said, that it's a pedestrian environment.
It is.
What I would love to be able to see is, let's remove some of that parking. If we got to figure out some way on our staff and at the City Hall to really be looking at the parking requirements that you have. Just say that, yes, this is definitely a pedestrian environment, then that takes away a lot of cars if we can get rid of some of that parking, and it lowers the building. 2 things I'd like to see. I'd like to see the building height lowered. I want the density, I understand the density, and I'm comfortable with that. I just think that we need to find some way that we could look at this and say that you don't have to have all that parking, because you're right next to the light rails, your walking areas, tunnels, all of those things that people could be using instead of driving their vehicles. That why don't we look at something like that where we could do both at the same time? Remove some of those parking stories and lower that building and make it more pedestrian area. That's one of the
I
things.
really appreciate your comments, Councilwoman. I will tell you, at and through the DRC process, we did actually eliminate a floor of parking with that very concept in mind, but we're happy to continue thinking on it.
Yeah, I really would, and I really, again, I think it's something that our, council, we need to address about the requirements for that parking. Again, if it's going to be in an area that we're calling a multimodal, we don't have to have the cars or that many cars down there.
And I can tell you, Councilwoman, I'd be delighted to speak with you even offline, because Phoenix has been trying to do that and frankly failing miserably. But I think it is a worthwhile cause, so happy to work with you on that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Sounds good. Thank you. I was just going to say very quickly, I'm not going to talk much because Councilmember Garland really said what I was going to say as well. I keep trying to look for ways that we could somehow lower some of the building heights, because a lot of the projects coming forward have a lot of floors of parking in them, and we have these very sort of transit-rich environments, and you talked about it being a very pedestrian-friendly area. I myself live downtown, and so I'm constantly walking. I've never walked more in my life, and I love it. But the reality is I keep trying to find ways to still get the density that I think is very much needed. It is what the general plan 2040 and 2050 actually talk about. And I keep thinking about a lot of the work that we're trying to do to revitalize Mill Avenue, the $22 million streetscape project, lots of new inquiries from restaurants and bars and other kind of retail outlets that are, frankly, I don't want to describe them as just higher end, but I'm talking about kind of creating a little bit more balance in some of the offerings we see in the downtown currently, where a lot of things now are geared much more towards a younger crowd, but with some of the people moving in with the new hotels and things like, Mirabella at ASU, we're seeing a very, very different kind of crowd. The office space, the other market rate residential, we're seeing a very different crowd in downtown, so I'm very excited about that. And I think the density is part of why you're going to see that renaissance in downtown Mill Avenue. I think it is critically important to have people down here who have disposable income that they can spend in all of these shops and restaurants. But at the same time, I would love to see if we could talk about that as well. Maybe I can be part of that conversation with you and Councilmember Garland offline, or a separate conversation, to see if there is any ability to work a little bit more on the parking that might still get us the density we need downtown, but also kind of might drop the height. It might allay some of the concerns that have been raised. So,
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mayor.
thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Thank you.
All right. Once again, this is only a first hearing, so the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The next item under the section is 8B4, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from GID, General Industrial District with Transportation Overlay District, TOD, to MU4 TOD, Mixed Use High Density District, a planned area development overlay to establish development standards, and a development plan review for a new 18-story mixed-use development with 539 dwelling units for 955 East Mixed Use, located at 955 East University Drive. The applicant is Sender Associates Chartered. Good evening, Ms. Sender.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Darren Sender, Sender Associates, 464 South Farmer in Tempe. Thank you all. We'll be brief. I know it's going to be a long night tonight still after we're done here. This is a new project. Again, it's 955, 965. We hadn't figured out the address yet, but it's east of the southeast corner of University and Rural, over by the U-Haul property. This is a project by Aspirant, the Empire Group. I've got Jeff Jacobs here this evening, and also, more important than me, is the architect who will run you through the development or the design of the project itself, Stefan Richter. Let's see here. Site's located, again, this is looking north at the, just east of the southeast corner there, across from Raising Cane's, across from the shopping center there, retail center there with my favorite Einstein's bagels. As you can see, looking towards downtown, this area is actually an extension of the downtown urban core. It has been designated in the general plan as urban core mixed use density over 65 DUA for years, years and years. And the general plan 2050 reinforces that. This area and the area south and east of it has actually been expanded into that downtown urban core. So the mixed use project, a taller building is more than appropriate for this location. Again, there's just the kind of an aerial shot. To the south is the old right-of-way, which is the 8th Street pedestrian pathway that is underway currently. We do have a connection to that pathway for our residents. We're here requesting a rezoning. Currently, it's GID TOD, which is general industrial in the TOD, and we are going to match that to the general plan, which is mixed use. So it'll be MU4, keeping the TOD, of course, and then adding a PAD for the development standards. Secondly is that PAD, and then DPR for the design of the building. As you can see, the 2040 currently shows it as mixed use in the gray, and the projected density is over 65 DOA, which is an urban core density. The 2050 general plan designation that was just approved and will be voted on soon changes this area. You can kind of see in this area there's a lot of yellow to the south and east, a lot of gray, some red. The 2050 really takes us and makes it more of the downtown urban core. It's an extension of that core, and that's where we're at today. Our zoning request complies with that general plan. Again, there's the zoning of the property, TOD, and some of the development standards. So this project itself, Stefan will run you through the design. It's a very unique project where it's not necessarily high-rise. It's a 17 and 14-story project, 2 towers instead of 1 large tower, on a podium with a significant amount of pedestrian walkability in the front. The building is set back so far in the front that we actually had to do a special document to give to Ryan to show that we meet the intent of the TOD standards and development standards that actually want all the buildings to be right up on the street. We actually pulled it back off the street to allow a lot more room for the pedestrians to have access there to walk and to plant lots of shade, trees in this area, lots of shrubbery, things like that. It is a market rate product. Studios 1s, 2s, I think this one has some 3 bedrooms as well, but minimal 3 bedrooms. So it is a market rate product. It is not student housing. This is a project that I believe the city staff feels is a nice connection to the university, but also to Novus. Everything that is happening in this area, the jobs that are going to be created in this area will really be calling for families and young professionals to live here. There will be students, of course. We can't stop that. Every project has some, but this is not intended by any stretch to be, and it is not going to be marketed that way. So with that, Stefan, kind of show them the project.
Stefan Richter with Gensler. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll run through presentation here. Oh, that would explain that. All right. Well, we've already established the location of the site, so we'll skip through that real quick. So on this project, we're really trying to achieve a sense of arrival. activation and safe and pedestrian environment at the ground level right off the university. So we're going to run through a few different things, working from on the ground level on our way up the building. At the heart of it, we wanted to make sure that there was a lot of shade trees, that there was safe arrival for multimodal transport, so cars, vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. There's also a very strong interest in trying to provide as much amenity space as possible, both indoors and outdoors. So we have a number of different things like dog runs, we have game courts, we also have a lot of ground floor retail too at the main entry. I know there's a specific concern about too much retail. With a project this size and scale, we've right-sized the restaurant space down at the ground level to make sure that it will become occupied and fully used. Right here is a great ground level plan to kind of show where the entry right on the top of the plan right there is on the center, where that would be our main resident arrival and guest arrival by car, by bike, or by foot. We have a dedicated service loop around the outside to separate those two sources of traffic so that fire, trash, and loading basically don't cross paths with people coming and going that live here. This is a great view down on University. Looking out, you can start to see the restaurant patios peeking out on either tower at the ground level. The large entry canopy at the front there, greeting people as they come in. It shades a lot of the space at the front doors of both buildings, and we have basically the City of Tempe required treescape that we have off of University. The rest of the ground floor is wrapped in a decorative metal scrim, basically to shield the view of all the cars. We also have the required crash rail that blocks the headlights coming out from there. So, and you can also see a little bit of the colors, the splash of color that we have in there for the metal scrim. So it's multi-dimensional. So it will cast a variety of shadows around the building. It will create a really nice dancing effect of color and light. It won't be your typical, parking garage screen. Adds a little bit of dimensionality and character to the ground, especially facing out to the future A Street Trail. On our way up the building, we have a large outdoor courtyard space. The area in pink right there is the indoor amenity space that's directly connected to this. This is intended to be a tiered amenity space that works its way upwards in elevation to the south, where it terminates at pool deck, and shade canopies. The idea is, of course, large gathering, event space, a yoga lawn with some of the imagery you see down there on the right. But the idea is this is the main outdoor space that everyone in both towers comes down to. Wrapping the building, we're looking at a high quality ACM metal product. It's color distribution throughout with, a gentle variety of different shades of desert colors with a splash of accent colors that you can see right there in kind of that gold. One to help blend in with some of the character that's in and around all of Tempe, but add a kind of a sense of modernity to it as well. You can see down at the lower left-hand side of the screen right there, that's that big amenity bar, that part of that indoor amenity space. We have a lot of kind of multi-dimensional turned metal panel on walls to help, again, create depth and character to the space. So everything's not flat. This is a typical residential floor. There was a strong push for a lot of outdoor living space, which I think we've heard about a little earlier today, where you can see on these plans, we have large outdoor balconies that wrap the outside, the perimeter of both towers. And then the areas that are facing each other, they're a little bit more private and intimate because they are facing the courtyard. There's a concern about sound and making sure that we, maintain as much privacy as possible. And on those balconies, we are looking at using a expanded metal product. It's got a lot of depth, it's decorative, it adds a lot of texture and shade. It's also very damage resistant, so this is not your standard metal mesh that oil cans and can get bent and kicked on other properties. This is something that will definitely hold its shape and definitely adds a lot of dimension to the facade, especially these large balconies that you can see kind of up on that upper left-hand side. And of course, high performance glazing, really focused as much glazing as possible to allow enough ample natural light into the spaces, but really going focusing as much of the large window walls facing north, where we don't have as much direct sunlight concerns, and using deep overhangs to kind of shade the glazing we do have wrapping around the outside of the buildings. And on the top of the building, we have 2 sets of rooftop gardens and indoor amenity space. These are a little bit more low-key, and they're intended to be more for smaller gathering, cooking, kind of acting as garden spaces that overlook the city. So, most of the water features and the pool and the higher activities happens down low at level 5. This is a little bit of a lighter touch at the top of the building. And here's some imagery kind of pointing out to where some of this will occur. Any water that may end up there might be more water features, but we're kind of leaning towards more of dry garden space up there with a lot of plants and foliage. And that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Let me really quickly go to the public hearing just to make sure, but I'm not sure, but I wouldn't go too far. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? This is a public hearing item. If so, please get my attention. Kim Gaffney-Loza, please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. Kim Gaffney-Loza, North Tempe, Arizona. I just have one concern about the design. I think the artistic design looks great, but functionally, I'm wondering about that huge tower of glass. You're going to have a lot of garden area, which of course is going to bring birds. And I'm a little bit concerned about how that glass is going to affect the birds in the area. And that's my only question.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion. I guess stepping in the center, if you would rejoin us up here. Once again, this is only the first hearing, so no vote's going to be taken this evening, but I'm going to look to council for any comments. Vice Mayor Adams and Councilor Devar.
Kim, I guess we've spent too much time together because I was thinking the same thing. We do need to address this bird issue because we're losing a lot of birds for the glass. For the glass, they fly right into it and die. So I would like to, I guess, ask you to address that issue.
There is a number of different films and other ways to kind of help. I'm not a bird expert, but I believe it has to do with what they see in the glass or the reflection in the glass, thinking that the glass is not there in a solid wall. So there's a number of different films and ways we can treat the glass to help eliminate or at least reduce bird crashes into glass. And we also have primarily those large panes of glass only on the north side, which is the short end of the building too. So most of the facade is actually a mixture of metal and glass and in deep balconies. So we feel that there's a tendency not to have as much of conflicts with birds in those deeper living spaces outdoors.
Well, between now and the next time you come back, could you talk to a bird expert?
Absolutely.
And have a plan that we can
Yep.
Talk about. And is there going to be any area for dogs on this project?
Yes, there are 2 sets of dog runs for both towers.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilor Devar.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the design. I appreciate what you guys are looking at in terms of just hearing the residents about the birds and everything like that. Streetscape down, I appreciate you guys giving some depth on the sidewalk. Obviously, that is going to be a highly pedestrian walkway. I think the retail is important in that area, obviously. As we've kind of seen within and around that area, I think it's very strategic and smart what you guys are doing for the residents also. I do like the shape of the building and how you're designing the balconies, especially with the views in that area, are going to be tremendous. So I think you're doing great. With the back portion of it, it's still having that dimensional on the back side of it, because we're talking about the park that eventually we get done on 8th Street. But what is maybe the partnership with that park? I know that you talk about dog runs up within the property itself, but obviously the access to the park. Is there anything we can work with the city on to maybe one day how we can not only connect for your residents, but also maybe connect for amenities that might help both of us out, I guess?
We can sure talk about that. I can talk to Ryan and we can see what opportunities are in the future. It hasn't come up.
Yeah, and I know that because the 8th Street Park has been something going on for a long time, and Yeah, absolutely. But I think maybe this is one of those things that starts to really get this thing going again. And I think that how we do it, especially with properties, you might be the first of connecting that piece and other properties helping out with that piece too. So once again, it's that partnership I'm looking at, but also the vegetation and how we connect your property and how our vegetation looks within that property too, especially on the front and back. Lush is great. I know that we're talking about desert landscaping in certain terms, but what you guys are doing is probably going to kick off what's going to happen around you. So I like the vibrancy of that downscape. So, or how we do our trees and stuff.
Yeah, we've definitely been in contact with the city a lot about the 8th Street the pedestrian walkway. We've talked to them about, we've got all the drawings for that. We have all of the plans for that. So I don't know what their timeline is, but we made sure we had access to it.
Okay.
So we can certainly talk about the park as well and see if there's any opportunities there. It's
Like to get
further
in there.
down the street,
Yeah.
but
And I'll get in theirs also too. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Garland?
We talk about density in Tempe and downtown areas. I like this because I think this is like a thoughtful presentation of what we could do for density in the area. I think it's the right area. The surroundings, everything around it just seems to fit this, so I appreciate that. I also like that in the development plan review conditions of approval, I love 6, 7, and 8 about hiring the archaeologists to come in and really do a good study, because that 8th Street, we have a great video about it, but that 8th Street had some absolutely amazing artifacts, and we saw a structure under there that the archaeologist that was there said that that 8th Street area is probably the 5th most significant archaeological finding in Arizona, is just on that what is going to be underneath that 8th Street walkway. So that it is across the street. So I really appreciate you doing this, and I love that we are now asking and requesting of people that are developing in this area to be taking the SRPMIC cultural test. So I appreciate that you guys are willing to do that also. That means a lot. So thank you.
yes, Mayor Woods, Councilwoman Garland, we actually already hired the archaeological consultants. That was something that we did very early on to make sure that they knew what these new ground rules were here in Tempe, and that we could start them as soon as possible. So they've been on board for several months.
That's great. And opening it up to the 4 Southern Tribes and SRPMIC, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Vice Mayor Adams?
Just real quick, I like that you have a green roof. A lot of your roof is green, and I would encourage other developers to do the same thing. So it really cools down the building. So thank you very much for that thoughtfulness.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you. Any other comments from council? I like it a lot. Very, very well designed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. See you in a few weeks.
Sounds good. See you in 3 weeks. Once again, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The next item under the section is 8B5, which is introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 33, Article 6, Tempe City Code relating to water wasting by amending sections 33-121, 33-122, 33-124, 33-132, and 33-133. This is also a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? I was just saying I would be shocked if anyone wanted to talk to us about this tonight, so I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? All right, hearing none, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The next item under the section is 8B6, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 33, Article 7, Tempe City Code relating to water conservation by amending sections 33-140, 33-141, and 33-142. This is also a public hearing item. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council, get my attention. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? Seeing none, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The next item under the section is 8B7, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the granting of a power distribution easement to Salt River Project Agricultural Improvement and Power District over certain city-owned land located at the intersection of Fairmont Drive and Diablo Way, and authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an easement agreement and related documents. This is also a public hearing item. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council, please get my attention. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? Hearing none, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The next item under the section is 8B8, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the second amendment to an easement agreement between the City of Tempe and Vestar CPT, Tempe Marketplace LLC. Said easement agreement grants an exclusive well site utility easement between the City of Tempe and Vestar CPT, Tempe Marketplace LLC. This is also a public hearing item. Is anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? If so, get my attention. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? Hearing none, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. The last item under the section is 8B9, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the granting of a power distribution easement to Salt River Project Agricultural Improvement and Power District over certain city-owned land located at 2200 West Alameda Drive, which is Tempe Diablo Stadium, and authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an easement agreement and related documents. This is also a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council? If so, get my attention. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? Seeing none, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for September 28th, 2023. Next up, item 8C, ordinances and items for second hearing and final adoption. These items, 8C1 and 8C2, were read and introduced back on July 27th, 2023. Agenda items 8C3 and 8C4 were read and introduced on August 24th, 2023. So votes on all of these items will be taken this evening. The first item of the section is 8C1, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt a resolution authorizing a general plan density map amendment from high density up to 65 dwelling units per acre to high density urban core more than 65 dwelling units per acre, adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from CSS TOD, Commercial Shopping and Services District Transportation Overlay District Corridor, to MU4 TOD, Mixed Use High Density District Transportation Overlay District Corridor, a planned area development overlay to establish development standards, and a development plan review for a new 7-story mixed-use development with 189 units for the Marshall at Tempe, located at 1057 East Apache Boulevard. The applicant is Aptitude Development. Just as a note to the council and everyone in the audience and watching at home, this resolution authorizes a general plan amendment, which means there is a required 2/3 vote, which is 5 out of 7 council members for approval. With that said, I will look to Mr. Wood. Is there a presentation this evening? From Snell and Wilmer, I should say.
Mayor, members of the council, Nick Wood, Snell and Wilmer, 1 East Washington Street, and I represent Aptitude. As you and I discussed just about an hour or so ago, 2 hours ago, Mayor, since I gave such a comprehensive presentation the last time, I won't go through that again, but I know that Councilmember Chin had a couple of questions for me, I believe, in which I can probably pull up slides to answer your questions.
Was it for the other project?
Was the other one? Oh, I apologize. Well then, no, Mayor, I have no presentation.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Wood. This is also, once again, a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? And if so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? And I want to note, once again, this item actually does require 2 separate votes. Any comments, discussion? Councilmember Garland.
I was going to say, this is another one of those developments that putting in density, putting in additional housing, it's in the right spot to do the things that we want to do. And when Mr. Wood and I were discussing this property a few weeks ago, we talked about the required parking spaces and how it would be nice for the city to be able to adjust those parking spaces to be able to make something like this, maybe adding units to it or something. But I just want to say, I think this is, again, another one of those good examples of the right thing in the right location.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Anyone else? Any further comments? All right. So the first item, just want to say really quickly, is on the general plan density map amendment. There's a motion made by Councilmember Navarro. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. Further comments or questions? No? All right. Please vote.
Aye. Aye.
And that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Keating absent. The second vote here is on the zoning map amendment and the planned area development overlay, in addition to the development plan review. Is there a motion on this item?
Second.
It's been moved, I think, by Vice. Oh,
If I may, I'm sorry,
yes, please.
Mayor. The request that we had was that condition number 4 in section 2 be deleted so that we can do the 0.31 ratio.
Okay, sounds good. I guess I should probably ask, maybe I'll look to Jeff Tamulevich to see, is that everything okay, or? Okay, sounds good. So that's the condition. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Appreciate the clarification on that item.
Just,
Vice Mayor Adams?
I know that's going to be a lot of glass on this too. Can you guys look into doing something to protect the birds on this one too? There'll be a lot of glass, I think, on this building also. Can you guys do what you can to protect the birds also?
Yeah, Mayor, Vice Mayor, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Councilor Navarro?
No, just motion.
Just, okay. Okay, so there is a
With
motion
No,
with,
do we have?
with the, so a motion with the item that Mr. Wood just spoke into the record?
Correct.
Okay, so the motion's made by Councilor Navarro, seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. What? Oh. And Ron. Oh.
We're good.
Everyone good? All right. I agree, Councilman. I was like, there's some added drama going on there. I like that. You need that every now and then. So, okay, the motion was made by Councilor Navarro, seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. If there's no further comments or questions, please vote. Councilmember Hodge? Councilmember Hodge? All right, and that motion passes 6-0 with Councilmember Hodge absent. The next item under the section is 8C2, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a planned area development overlay to modify building height and a development plan review for a new 27-story mixed-use development with 281 units for Sky Tempe located at 780 South Myrtle Avenue. The applicant is Snell and Wilmer, LLP. Look, I see Nick Wood again from Snell and Wilmer. Welcome back.
Nice to be back. Mayor, members of the council, Nick Wood, Snell and Wilmer, 1 East Washington Street, and I represent Hubbard. Last time I did a presentation, there was several questions that were asked. And of course, you're all very familiar with the site. One of the questions, Ryan, where are our slides? They should be out. Okay. Oh, here you go. They're in the back. So one of the questions that we had was, what are we doing about visitor parking? And that question was asked of me, and I did not give a very good answer because I really didn't have one at the time. There really hadn't been a lot of thought with respect to visitors parking. And since we did our presentation in July, we've spent time with staff and we've agreed to do a couple of things. Number one, we're going to set aside 18 spaces. They will be dedicated to guests and potentially 3 commercial employees to the extent that our commercial tenant needs them. In addition, we have a ratio of about 1 space per unit. And we understand that there will be some people who may not need a car. And to the extent that they don't lease a space, those available spaces that are being unused or unrented will also be available for visitors. And the way that works is with an app. You know, I think as some of you know, I live in Optima Kierland. It's a 12-story building, and we have an app, and we can go ahead and give people access to the building, parking, the whole 9 yards. And we'll have that, so that the system will have in it available parking, both where the locations are for the 18 and the locations are for those that have not been leased. Next is pickup and drop off. Uber, Lyft, right? And then, of course, you've got all of the delivery services that are now actually doing so well, they're becoming publicly traded companies. Again, talking with staff and figuring out how this can work, we have this entire area, as you can see here in yellow, along the alley. And that is an area that is all on our property. It's not in the alley. It's open all the time. The only time it's not is about a 10 or 15 minute period twice a week where a garbage truck comes in, picks up the garbage and leaves. But other than that, that space is all open. And of course, there is access from that. They can either walk around to the front door, or there's access into the building from the back. So we will direct all of the tenants in the building to go ahead and use that. We all know that that's not always going to happen. People are going to do what people are going to do, but especially for those that are going to park their car and come in and deliver things, that is where we want them to park and do that. Next question was, Councilmember Garland asked if we would speak with the Tempe History Museum, and we did. Took a tour with them, and they asked us if we would donate the sign that you see on the screen. So again, we have EV spaces and other things. I think, are there any other questions?
Sure. Yeah, we can probably go to public comment first, and I guess we'll circle back to the questions from
great.
council. So,
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Great suggestion. This is also a public hearing item, so is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing and go back to the council comments then. Anyone on council with any comments or questions? Councilmember Chin?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Woods, if you would go back to that first diagram you had of the, right, leave it there. So I just want to clarify. Talk to me about guest parking. You said you will have 18?
Yes.
So you said there's an app, and so the residents have the app. Do the guests need the app to access the spaces? Talk to me. Tell me how a guest would park there.
Sure, Mayor, Councilmember Chin. What happens is, I mean, for example, we have an app on our phone where we can send to somebody else's phone an access key or an access code. So basically, they can come anytime and have direction, and of course, they'll have the actual space designated on that entrance key.
Got it. Okay. Now, if you'll go back to the other diagram, I had a concern about, as you described the residents, the typical residents that you think will be attracted to this building. They were young professionals and this is a market rate project.
Market rate.
So they are the primary audience for Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, Amazon, all of the convenient services that one might enjoy. So my concern is, where is this going to go? Where will people be picked up? Because the other concern raised by both residents and some members of the DRC was the additional burden of congestion in a very tight area. So that's why I ask. I want you to understand the context of my question. So where are people going to be dropped off? Where are things going to be picked up?
Okay, so the yellow area that you see there is a very large, long, wide area. And it's on our property. It's not in the alley. It's off the alley. Mm-hmm. And it's always open. And as a result, our direction, and so it'll be in our leases with all of our tenants, and our direction to them will be that if you're using Uber, you're using Lyft, If you are calling for any kind of a delivery service, okay, they are to pull into that area and park, come in, deliver, and leave.
What's the lighting in that area?
Because it's an alley, it'll be certainly well lit, especially if we're going to have people using it, whether it's Uber, Lyft, drop off. It's also a security issue.
Where's the front door?
The front door is, if you, you can, Mel, maybe there's a better slide I can show you. Okay, the front door, you can see where the lobby is in the middle of the building, and then it exits out onto Myrtle from there.
Okay, so help me understand this. So on the top of this slide on the right is where you suggest that the ride share and delivery will be. And people, residents can come in and out. What door back there?
There is not a door back there unless they come in through the loading door. So they would come around to the front of the building from that back area in the alley.
Okay. And ride share is the same?
Now, we all know, I mean, again, we're going to designate it, we're going to sign it, right? There's going to be signage there. There's going to be directional signage for it. Uber and Lyft, people, look, they get dropped off in 30 seconds. They pull over right here, drop me off, and go. There's not going to be a lot of that there. We're going to suggest that they go and stand there and wait. They're not going to do it. People just don't.
Sure, I can appreciate what you're saying. I also think about Myrtle, which is on the far right, and that is a very small, narrow street, which I think that's where, which is closer to the front door, which is where I believe people will try to stop. And my concern there is the congestion that it'll cause.
Well, Mayor, Councilmember Chin, we've done a traffic study, right? We've done a parking analysis with all of that. When you're in a downtown, there's going to be cars, and there's going to be some congestion. Uber and Lyft will not be causing that congestion. There's not that many people living here going into Uber and Lyft every hour of every day, for example. It's going to happen, but this is a downtown area, and really I don't believe, this is just Nick Wood, and our traffic engineer doesn't believe that Uber and Lyft is going to add to any of the congestion that's here. As far as the pickup and drop off from our friends from delivery services, they will park back in that area. They'll come around. They'll be let in again with the app, and they'll go in, drop off the stuff, and leave.
No, I thank you. I appreciate what you're saying also, and I'll repeat something that I said earlier. I appreciate density in the right areas. I like having residents in our urban core. I like having support for our businesses in the area, but I also appreciate smart growth. And I think we have to look at buildings and projects that contribute positively to the area. And I like a lot about this project. I just still have some concerns about some of those issues. I'm not picking a defect. I'm picking at something that I think could enhance the project and enhance the surrounding areas and the other residents also. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anyone else on council? Councilmember Garland.
Hi, Nick. So my theme for the evening is lowering the height and let's get rid of some of the parking. We just had the general 2050 plan that we had so many residents participate in and businesses participate in. And one of the things was I truly believe I don't believe that all the residents think we shouldn't have density. I think we know that we need density, and that's important. So I'm not against the density on this project, and I don't think not our residents may not be against the density. It's the car traffic, the same thing I had mentioned about a project earlier, and the height. And I look at this sometimes when I'm looking through some of these projects, I'm like, okay, just because we can build to that height does not mean that we have to build to that height. And I went and I think on your slide, K10, it's still up. If you look on that slide that you have up right now, I sat on Myrtle about 25 minutes one day and probably about 30 minutes on another day, just to see kind of what that traffic would look like. I was just about parked where that white car is parked on the side of the street that's right there. And I was going back and forth and trying to look at the traffic that would be going back in the back of that building. And I just cannot seem to find a way to look at this and say that traffic going in and out with that many cars that were or at least if you take a car per parking spot, that wouldn't cause a safety issue. You gave a perfect example. If you look at your picture, the picture on the left, you look at those two white vehicles that are on the corner, the left-hand top corner of your picture, that's about what it looked like. Unfortunately, it's something that you wouldn't be able to control everywhere, but when I was sitting on Myrtle and looking down on that alley, there were different cars parked in different spots through that whole alley, and that alley is not very wide. So I have a concern with the amount of vehicles that this project will be adding to that area that's going to add to the cars in that parking lot, that's just going to, I think, be a safety concern for me. Again, as Councilmember Chinda, I like the density. I understand that that's what we need. I think your project is a beautiful project. I like the way it looks. I love the fact that you're not asking for a gyplet. I think that's a great thing. But I just can't get past that height that our residents in that 2050 plan were all looking at and talking about. And we heard from so many residents in letters and texts and emails and the events that we had where people can come out and talk to us. But I also think that, again, this brings us up an idea that we really need to be working as a city and as a staff to work at lowering those parking requirements so that you can drop down that building.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that the council has to look at, and I would just like to, this is just throwing this out there, about maybe looking at doing a continuance on this project. I will not support it today. If we were to be able to meet with our staff, meet with our council, and look at this project again and seeing if we can lower the parking on this and lower that building a little bit, I would be 100% behind supporting this project. But I just want to put that out there. That's one of the things I was looking at, because I just think that we need to be listening to our residents a little bit about this while still being able to do density.
Mayor, Councilmember Garland, your points are well taken, and again, I appreciate it very much. What we're dealing with right now is something that you really haven't dealt with before. This is really the first true, market rate, high-end luxury apartment whose demographic and the target of that demographic is not students. When you have students, you don't need parking. For example, you can see on the screen in the right-hand side, it says parking. And you can see our mix of units, right? We have 51 studios. We have 171 bedrooms. We have 59 two-bedrooms. We only have one, three-bedroom, essentially. And your current code requires us to have 175 parking spaces. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you already have a system that allows for less parking. We are actually putting in 271 stalls. So we're adding almost 100 extra stalls than what your own code mandates. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that when you have that demographic that you're trying to reach and attract, those that have an average annual income of $80,000 to $100,000 a year, right? Those who will support really fine dining and all the things that I know this council and everybody else wants to see in downtown, rather than student-centric or student-oriented types of retail, bars and things. We're talking about another level. And in order to do that, right, our lenders, our equity, they basically say, look, these people, right, in this demographic, they're probably going to have a car. And we have to make sure that when we spend the kind of money to build something of this size and scope and this quality, when you're building for students, it's just not as nice. But when you're building for an individual, like I said, I live in Upper McCurland. It's magnificent. My wife and I wouldn't live there but for that. But when you are providing that level of quality and luxury, you have to provide whatever they need on a day-to-day basis, and that's parking. Believe me, parking is expensive. Parking structures now are $50,000 to $60,000 a space. If we could get away with less parking, I promise you, my client would do this. My client has another high-rise in downtown Phoenix. It's just almost ready to start leasing. Same situation, right? Same parking counts, same situation, very high-end, very luxury. So, but again, you wouldn't spend that money as a developer if it wasn't necessary. You would say, oh yeah, half the parking, right? A third of the parking, let's bring it down. Because it saves so much money. But if you want this type of building, right, in an area where it's supposed to be, I mean, when you take a look at all of your downtown community design principles, 300 feet. And by the way, the building itself is only 280 feet. It has 20 feet of screening because we have all the mechanicals on top. You've got elevator overruns, you've got all the mechanicals, chillers, everything else. So I appreciate everything you say, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but this is something unique. First time ever in downtown Tempe, and hopefully there will be more that follows this. But again, you already have a system that limits parking, but we are voluntarily having more for a very important reason.
Yeah, so I know that it's important to have density in downtown, and we want density. We want market rate places, apartments there, because we know that that does help our businesses, our restaurants, the community events that are downtown. But I again look at this and just say there has got to be something that we can do to not have to require so many parking spots. And I appreciate you saying you added some because of the luxury. I get it. I don't agree with that, but I understand what you're saying. I just think that we need to be looking more at what we can do when we're adding developments like this. Take the density, but not always take the height. And I think that we just always defer to the height. Again, so I appreciate what you said, but I can't support this.
Yeah, and if I may add one other thing, Mayor, Councilmember Garland, it's interesting. I mean, I've been doing this over 40 years, and I hear about too tall, too dense, too much traffic crime, right? I wish I had a nickel for every one of those. I wouldn't even be here. Height is a very interesting discussion. I mean, we are surrounded, right, by tall buildings. You can see the Olive, the Westin, the Union, the Canopy. We've got our friends from Mirabella across the street. Height, when you're looking at a building, I've never known anybody go, damn, that thing's too tall, right? When you're a pedestrian, we call it the 20 by 20. When you're walking down the street, the area of influence that you're in is 20 feet deep and 20 feet tall. So architects, right, design around that. And good developers plan around that. So for example, when you see our ground area like this, that's the 20 by 20, right? You can see where we've got pavers, you can see we've got shade, you can see we've got changes in the articulation of the building, you can see the trees, the shade. That's the pedestrian realm. That's what they're concerned about. Whether it's 26 stories, 25 stories, 20, nobody really cares. Nobody even knows. I mean, I can't look at a building myself unless I count the floors. I can't tell you how tall it is.
I agree that you can, and you would have to sit there and count, but I have to disagree that it does matter to people. It does matter to some people. It may not matter to everybody, but it does matter to some. And I go back to the amount of parking. If you equal that to the amount of cars in there, your picture on page 10 shows the safety concerns and issues that I have with cars coming in and out of that alley. I mean, that picture shows exactly the concern that I have, that I witnessed by parking at the end. And I can invite anybody else to come down there and sit with me, and you can see it every single day, what that looks like on there. And I think it's a safety issue. And so my suggestion and offer was to figure out some way to, I'm sorry, did you have something?
Yeah, we've gone over that. I mean, we've discussed it.
I think I'm allowed the time to speak, Jennifer. I appreciate it. But again, I just think that it's a safety issue, and that's my concern is for that road. And so that's why I wanted to mention it. But I appreciate your responses to that, but I still think we have a safety issue.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Navarro?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I appreciate the conversation, appreciate the presentation. Obviously, no secret to me, I appreciate the height and the density that we're doing this. It's in the appropriate places, in an appropriate location. Across the street at Marabella, they also have two stall garages. They stack them on top of each other, so they have their cars there. The thing is, though, and what we've always said about this area is we're providing the density here because we want the attraction of the downtown. We want the uniqueness of the downtown. The other thing we asked about is trying to do something different than just student housing or just attracting college students. Try to incentivize things that, like this project, that has more higher end market rate. I can disagree, and we can all disagree on the height, density, the parking garage, and everything like that. But the thing is, though, we know that we're going to provide pedestrian traffic. We know there is going to be an increase in traffic, and we have to manage that. And there's no secret about that. There's no secret about what even on what's happening with ASU on the golf course, and there's going to be density around there too. This area is going to grow. But we tried to plan with streetcar, with light rail, with the things that we see with Uber and all those other things. Yes, this is a city. Eventually, one day it will be a city. But this is the exact reason why these developments work, because people are attracted to this area and to this lifestyle. This is what they want. Uber Eats, I can't logically tell you on the eating patterns of any person that lives in this building on when they're going to eat or when Uber Eats is going to come and deliver or when an Uber pickup is going to happen. I just can't logically say that. I think you're trying to do the appropriate thing by establishing an area for where logical pickups could happen. Eventually, like everywhere else in every other city, is that people start to figure out locations on where to drop off, where to park, and where to pick up people at, because it's a convenience for them to get out, not to sit and stall in traffic or wherever it may be. Eventually, those things do happen. Every project that we've had in this city, people had concerns about project. 3-story apartment complexes. I remember on Baseline and Rural, right by the porch and the movie theater, we had major concerns about my height and the viewpoints and everything. That is not existing. We go through this over and over and over. We're trying something that is going to be a vital impact into our city. And I respect the disagreement. I do, because this is what makes the council, the council. But at the end of the day, these projects has incentivized this area. These projects have had benefit. Housing is a big issue. Hands down, housing is a big issue. And providing market rate housing is going to provide affordability. It just has it. You have to do it. But the thing is, this project has a lot of benefits to me. It has a lot of market rate benefit. It has a lot of, bottom floor, higher end benefits that we don't have in the downtown area, which is going to make this downtown even more unique. So I appreciate the development. I appreciate the commentary, and I appreciate the concerns. And I will say this, when you have a little bit of traffic within these streets, when you have pedestrians walking, there is a slowdown that happens. And it happens on 7th Street. And I've seen it because I've driven it. I rode my bike on it. I've done a bunch of things, walked it, everything like that. It does slow down. So I believe it makes it a little bit more safe to have that luxury of tightness within those areas. So my comments.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Keating?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Wood. I agree a lot with what Councilmember Navarro had to say there. Housing is my biggest issue probably these days as we move further and further into a housing crisis, that we need more units in the city of Tempe, period. Whether they're market rate or they're workforce or they're affordable, a mix of all is obviously ideal, but the only way to get out of this crisis is to increase units. Housing scarcity is a policy choice that has been made all over this country for the last 30 plus years. When I look at the map, your use map was very helpful, because we look at the map and we see that the general plan 2040 already allows for this product. This isn't something new that's coming with the proposed general plan 2050, and it's surrounded by projects that are just as dense, just as tall. So I don't really see too much of an outlier here why this somehow doesn't fit in this area. And I agree that our downtown needs, I would like more residents downtown. Our businesses downtown still have not recovered from the pandemic. And anyone that's walked down Mill Avenue in February of 2020 or going to walk down Mill Avenue after this meeting tonight would be forced to agree with that. So I think anytime we can add people to our downtown urban core, we're doing a service to what is a huge economic driver for our city. And this product too, I like because we graduate, what is it? I mean, Mr. Gomez could tell me that was 80,000 young professionals a year from ASU with a degree from a very prestigious university. We want them to stay here in Tempe. And right now, the pricing is an issue and housing stock is an issue. So, you know, it all comes back to making sure we have units available for those people, because Tempe is a community of choice that want to live in this city. I really appreciate the donation to Hometown for All. Obviously, that's significant, right? That's a lot of money. It's nothing to sneeze at, and we'll be able to do some good with that as a city. And I also appreciate that you're not asking for a GIFLET. I would have been interested to know all the buildings that we saw that are right around it, how many of those received a GIFLET?
They all did.
I'm sure they did. So to me, and I understand my colleagues' concerns, and look, all concerns are valid, right? I'm not trying to dismiss anybody, but to me, when you add all that up, it translates to me to be supportive of this project. So I will be voting yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One quick comment of mine, and then I'm going to go to Vice Mayor Adams. I just wanted to say, so one thing that, and I really do appreciate the diversity of comments up here, but one thing I do want to circle back to is something that Councilmember Garland said, because, and that I think is getting a little lost. I don't think that what she's saying, and I tend to agree with her. I don't think that what she's saying is that she wants to reduce the number of units and that the density isn't appropriate and that we don't need people in the downtown. What she's talking about really is the height, and talking about, is there some way through some kind of slight reduction in parking to maybe be able to drop the building 1 or 2 stories to address some of the concerns that residents have brought up in the first public hearing and some of the key comments we've even received over email, but not necessarily talking about reducing the units as a whole. Once again, I live in the downtown, right in the middle of it, and I want more units in the downtown. I think this is absolutely the appropriate place for this kind of density, especially for the revitalization of a lot of the businesses that Councilmember DeVar talked about that have struggled and have really struggled to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, because we still many times, for a lot of businesses, don't have people 100% back in the office. A lot of people are now working these sort of 3-2 hybrid schedules, and that really has been challenging for a lot of our restaurants and other retail entities in the downtown. And as we talk about trying to get more and better and higher end restaurants at the downtown to really reflect the changing demographics down here, I think the unit mix is critically important, and I like the fact that you're bringing this kind of quality into the downtown. So I don't have any overall issue with the project myself either, and I don't really have any quibble with the number of units. The issue I have is sort of related to Councilmember Garland's concern, which is more so about just generally the height, and wondering if there is some way, and I appreciate the fact that you're saying, hey, building parking, you're talking about $50,000 per stall, but I do sometimes wonder if there is any way to slightly reduce some of the parking in order to bring the height down, which I think might be a nice compromise between a council that really does support the density in the downtown and appreciates that that is our vision, but at the same time trying to be cognizant and recognize some of the concerns that residents have raised. But I'm not at all in any way, shape, or form talking about taking units out of the building. I mean, I think the units are absolutely necessary, and I don't have any problem with the people who'd be living in those units. So yes,
Mayor, if I may. So every product type is different, right? You have student housing, you have, lower rate, market rate housing, you've got affordable housing. But each one has its own programming requirements. And when you're going to build a luxury building such as this, and like I said, this is the first one that's ever been built in Tempe, so it's new. No developer in their right mind is going to spend that kind of money to build 100 additional spaces than what the code requires, unless they're absolutely necessary. And smarter people than me make these decisions, right? Not just the developer themselves, but the capital stack, right? The debt, the equity. They look at, we're going to invest tens of millions of dollars to build this high rise, and they want to make sure that it's going to be successful. If you have a tenant who comes and they have a car, And again, if somebody's making $100,000 a year or more, and they have a car and there's no space for them, they leave. Now you have an empty space, and you have an empty unit. So it is a requirement of our capital stack that this ratio of parking to units be maintained. But believe me, Mayor, if there was a way that they could save that kind of money and make it work, they really would.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Vice Mayor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, in the interest of time, because it's getting late, I just want to agree with Councilmember Keating and Councilmember Navarro on this project, and I'm making a motion to approve the project.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Any further comments or questions from council on this item? Nope. Okay. All right. Oh, what happened?
I can't hear you guys again.
No, we turned off the mic just to quickly fix some of the technical stuff, so.
Right. Every time it starts to vote, I can't hear you guys.
Okay, can you hear us now though, Councilmember Hodge?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. All right. All right. Motion's been made, seconded. Please vote.
Aye.
And that motion, that item carries 4-3 with Councilmember Chin, Councilmember Garland, and myself voting no. Congratulations. The next item under the section is 8C3, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the abandonment and sale of a portion of alley adjacent to the property located at 816 South Wilson Street near the intersection of West University Drive and South Wilson Street. This is also a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion?
Motion moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Navarro, I think, and seconded by Councilmember Keating, I think by a hair. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item passes 7-0. The last item under the section is 8C4, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the abandonment and sale of a portion of alley adjacent to the property located at 815 South Roosevelt Street near the intersection of West University Drive and South Wilson Street. This is also a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion?
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams and seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote.
Aye.
I'll take that as an, oh, perfect. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Got it. No worries. No worries. We got this. All right. And that item passes 7-0 as well. Next up, item 9, current events, council announcements, and future agenda items. Council members may request that an agenda item be added to a future council meeting during their allotted time. In accordance with the open meeting law, there should be no discussion on the item other than to clarify the request. This evening, I will turn first to Councilmember Garland.
All right. So the first announcement, I'm not sure which one I have. Lone Wolf. It's okay. So I would like to invite anybody who is interested to watch a virtual meeting with me. It's the Thriving Cities Spotlight Speaker. With the Phoenix Indian Center, and I'm going to be talking about my role as a council member and in local government, and trying to make sure that we make Indigenous spaces and how our culture and values have influenced the things that we do here, that I have done and what we have done here in the city. So it's a QR code and there's a link for that. Okay. So the next one is, we were just talking about signs. Nick just mentioned the sign that we're going to be picking up at the Tempe History Museum. There's going to be an exhibit about signs that's going to be going on there September 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. and it'll be at the Tempe History Museum, and you'll get to see some really cool signs that have been out and around the city of Tempe and their historic value. Great. And the next one is the Tempe History Society. They have lunch talks, and you can go onto the Tempe History Museum website and you can pull up some of the lunch talks. They have some great speakers, and the speaker that we're going to be having on September 13th is it's going to be discussing the founding of Tempe was very much part of the centuries-old movement of people north from central Mexico. By the time of Charles Humboldt Hayden established residence in what becomes Tempe, these people, principally from Sonora, were already living in the Salt River crossing. These Hispanic pioneers were involved in ranching, farming, freighting businesses, and et cetera, and were also involved in the leadership of this area. And there will be a discussion that'll explore the origins and evolution of Tempe's Hispanic heritage and leadership and their implications for the Tempe's future. So if you can go by the Tempe History Museum on September 13th from 11:30 to 1, you get to hear this wonderful talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Next up, Councilmember Hodge.
Okay, I only have one slide. Is it up there? Because I can't see.
It sure is.
Okay, it's my breakfast with Bernetta. It's my birthday. Come out. Let's have a conversation with Rosa. First, we go to Councilmember Garland's, and then we come over to mine. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. So it's Saturday, this Saturday at 10:30.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. Next up, Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any events. I just want to acknowledge that Monday is September 11th and ask everyone to keep the victims, their families, and the service members who have served since that awful day in your mind. I can't believe it's been 12 years. Time really does fly, but it's just kind of a rough day. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Keating. Next up, Councilmember DeBarro.
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to let you guys know that we're going to have our community conversation this coming up Wednesday next week on September 13th, starting at 5:30 p.m. It'll be at the Tempe Public Library in the Ironwood Room, I believe, unless we're moving it to a different location. We'll figure that out. We'll have signage out front. It's going to be a great conversation. It's going to be like a 4-piece series on housing and everything housing. The first conversation is get real input from the community, real input from the residents, kind of see what types of housing, have some questions and answers, and then we're going to fine tune some of those findings into the next series for bigger and more in-depth discussion. I invite you all to come out for this. This is going to be really intriguing. We're talking about this stuff all the time. We talked about it tonight. 2050 plan. All this is good stuff, and I think that to have some good information, we'll have some guest speakers in the audience also to help us out to have this discussion. So it'll be a lot of fun. On top of that, on a sad note, I'd like to say our regards to Pat Hatton. She passed away this morning at 95. Pat was a figure for Tempe. She was a former council member from 1976 to 1992. She was also vice mayor. Pat also has dedicated Hatton Hall, which is where the TCC housed at for a number of community and social services, and just been a pillar in our community with recognition to the Don Carlos Humanitarian Award in 1984. She was also one of the first 5 members, women members in the Kiwanis starting in 1987. That was the year when the Kiwanis allowed women to become in the organization, and she was the first 5 to become in that organization, with Dick Neuheisel sponsoring her. She will deeply be missed as she is a pillar of our community. I remember conversations with her, and just her knowledge and passion for Tempe will be missed. So we'll deeply miss Pat.
Thank you, Councilmember DeBarro. Next up, let me go to Vice Mayor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry to hear that about Pat today. I'll miss her smile at Kiwanis, that's for sure. I'm excited to announce a public awareness campaign promoting tree planting. Fall and winter, for those that don't know, is a perfect time to plant trees, and now is the time. Tempe has a goal of having a 25% tree canopy throughout our city, and by 2040, and we need your help. So please consider planting trees. The city of Tempe does have programs to help our residents with educational and financial aspects of planting a tree on their property, including cost match and a tree bait. I love that, tree bait, not rebate, tree bait. So grab a Trees for Tempe stickers. They're on the table in the back. And you can also visit tinyurl.com/Tempe Vice Mayor to learn more about the trees. So these are what the stickers look like. Keith Burke is holding them back there. Go, Keith. Yes, so please consider putting stickers on your computers or wherever and promote this program. It's an excellent program. Second of all, our next SEV, our Sustainability and Economic Vitality Council meeting, is going to be on September 18th at 1 p.m. here in council chambers. And we're going to be talking about Smith Road, Tempe's water conservation efforts, and urban forestry. We'd love you to join us in person, but if you can't, you can go on to Tempe Channel 11 and watch it on TV. So thank you, and that ends my announcements for this evening.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. I kept thinking when I saw the tree of course, Happy Little Tree for a Bob Ross reference for this evening. One of my favorite shows of all time. I'm going to give comments because Councilmember Chin, I'm going to have go last because I know she has a very special presentation this evening that I cannot follow, and so I'm going to go very quickly if she will allow me to. Just really quickly too, wanted to send my condolences out to the family of Pat Hatton as well. Pat was one of the first people that I met when I actually moved to the city of Tempe and got very active with the Kiwanis Club. She was an absolute real trailblazer. I remember going to Hatton Hall all the time and always wondering, who was this incredible woman who this building was named after, and really loved having the opportunity to get to know her. She was a real force. And when Councilmember Navarro talked about, one of 5 women who really integrated that club in terms of trailblazing the way for women to be Kiwanians in the city of Tempe, that was just the kind of person that she was. She was out in front of issues, and she was a person who really cracked through glass ceilings and not only just frankly allowed for women to have more say in the city of Tempe in so many different areas, but was a true trailblazer for each and every person living here and for our community. So she is absolutely going to be very much missed, and I am very much going to personally miss seeing her, not only at Kiwanis, but also at Friendship Village. I also wanted to say too, my last announcement here is just a kudos. I love when I get the opportunity to do this, to say thank you and kudos to Nikki Ripley. Because, and she's gonna be like, oh, now you're embarrassing me. So, but yes, I'm going to do it. So to Nikki Ripley, who's going to become the Assistant Vice President of Media Relations and Strategic Communications for Arizona State University. And I just wanted to tell you, Nikki has been with the city of Tempe now for 19 years. She's worked with many city leaders, and she has really been instrumental in making sure that the Public Information Office does a great job communicating not just with members of the news media or television media, but also with our residents. And so I really wanted to appreciate that. We have, over the 19 plus years that she's been here, we've obviously seen communication change quite a bit. Where at first, when I remember I first started, even back in 2008, mostly a lot of things were in print, and of course we had email, and there was social media, but we weren't using social media in the same way. Now almost everything happens on Facebook, X, or Twitter, as people would call it, or Instagram, and Google AdWords, and all of these things. And she and her team have really mastered those efforts, and so I really appreciate her ability to continue to work with the print media side. And I know she was a reporter at the East Valley Tribune for quite some time, but obviously to be able to pivot to doing all of that digital media. And so I really wanted to say thank you, because as we all know, it's an ever-changing world, and it's changing very, very quickly all the time. Just want to also say, too, under Nikki's supervision, the Communications and Marketing Office won several national and regional awards, and she also led the implementation of a new citywide marketing plan. Nikki's last day is going to be on September 15th, but one of the things that I always say is, with her, and it's funny, she's sitting right kind of next to Tim Gomez over there. One of the things I always think that even though we're losing her here at the city of Tempe after 19 years of dedicated service, it's wonderful to know that she's going to be right down the street at Arizona State University, continuing to do great work, not just on behalf of the university, but on behalf of our community as a whole. So I just wanted to say, Nikki, I've really, really enjoyed working with you, and you were one of the people who was here when I first joined the city back in July of 2008, and We've always had a great relationship, and I really appreciate the work that you've done and the way that you've really revolutionized that office. So we wish you the best of luck and forks up as you go to your next job over at Arizona State University. So thank you for your service. That ends my announcements, and I'm going to turn for the last announcement here to Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. I was taken aback. I did not know of Pat Hatton's passing until just a few minutes ago. When I was a junior in high school, the city of Tempe had student government days, and we students were invited to come shadow council members that day. And I shadowed Pat Hatton, and she was vice mayor during that term. And she's been very influential, both because of those experiences, and I played softball with her daughter Annette at Corona. And so I've known the Hatton family for a while. So my condolences, a great loss. I'm going to shift. I'd like to welcome, I think we have a slide. Do we have a slide? Do we have a slide? Joel just wants his donut. Do you have a slide?
But at least he's
Yeah, there's a
transparent
slide.
about that, you know, so. I love how I'm bookending my day with donuts, too. It's not a bad thing.
Well, I can keep talking. We'll keep moving here. I'd like to welcome Voodoo Donuts to Tempe. And this is their first and only Arizona location. So each of the council members and perhaps maybe the chief will get a donut. Certainly Jeff and Ryan. I'd like to welcome them, and I'd like to remind our residents of something important about their location here. So this is the 19th location. I had the great honor and pleasure of attending their ribbon cutting this morning with the mayor. Donuts are my favorite topic. They chose Tempe because of the influence of the Johnson family. They influenced the CEO to come to Tempe over several other cities that they were considering in the area. So this is something I'd like to invite our residents and other stakeholders to do. Be an economic development ambassador. If you are traveling and visit a restaurant, a store, a place that really you think would fit in Tempe, tell them about Tempe. And we have staff that can help you with facts and figures and information, but help be an ambassador for our city. So with that, enjoy the donuts.
Thank you. Yes, of course. Thank you, Councilmember Chin.
When I first had this donut in Portland, Oregon, I don't know, 15 years ago, I was hooked, hands down. I'm so happy because the location's on the way home. And it's right there on Roll Road in Apache. Got to stop by. They're going to be a high success, man. So great job.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Just want to say just two really quick things about this. One, if you see the first of all, the photo of Councilmember Chin in the top left corner is classic, and I'm going to hold on to that in the future. I might need that photo at some point. Yes.
You wearing the same shirt?
Yeah.
It was this morning.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Secondly, I'd like to say, too, that I love the fact that their pair of giant scissors says donut domination on it, of course. And just to share a story like Councilmember Navarro, the first time I had Voodoo Donut was back in either 2010 or 2011 when I was with then Councilmember Robin Arredondo Savage in Portland, Oregon, checking out the streetcar system up there as we were preparing to potentially implement it in Tempe. So part of our research was going to Portland and actually riding the streetcar around town. But of course, we also had to check out the incredible Voodoo Donut, where I got an apple fritter and a bacon maple donut that I ate in one sitting. So yes, it was a different time. So
I was just to say, I went there today about 10 o'clock, and the line was out
Around
the
the corner.
door and around the building and down the street.
it was incredible. Which brings us to item number 10, public appearances. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address the council? If so, please come forward and state your name and city of residence for the record. Seeing none, That brings us to item 11, which is adjournment. The next regular scheduled city council meeting is September 28th, 2023. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.